Welcome to Volya Radio. Слава Україні!
Oh, welcome everyone. Here we are at Volya Radio, Ukrainian Culture Hour and Book Club. It is Sunday night. It is 6:58 in New York, which would make it 3:58 in LA. Would make it 11:58 in London, 59 now in London, almost midnight, 2 a.m. in Kyiv, and 8 a.m. Yes, in the workers' paradise of Perth, Australia. And guess who I see coming up here? Anyway, we have Adam will be up in a minute too, I am sure, and we're going to have an hour of our culture hour, and then we have a very special program all about Ukrainian Christmas, for which I will be depending on all of my Ukrainian friends, being 13% my DNA test tells me Ukrainian, but that doesn't do me much because I have never celebrated Christmas in the Ukrainian way yet. So I'm hoping to change that soon. Anyway, welcome, Adam. Or should I say Dobry Večer?
Вітаємо вас, всі файні люди. Я готовий тепер, щоб говорити про Різдво.
Я дуже рада. У вас є всі подарунки?
Вже маю 75% подарунки.
Відсотків. Oh, procent. Well, we can go with procent.
Procent, right? That's it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Дуже добре. Nancy, save us.
No, I just had to get up here to speaker and beat Will. Woohoo! And I actually did it. Thank you guys for the assist there. But, well, now I'm out of things to say. So I guess I'll shut up and he'll take over the show.
It is. I always do get a certain feeling of achievement when I make it up here before Will does. Anyway. All right,
You notice
Adam.
I never make it to my own show on time, though.
Well, yeah, that's a little different. Yeah, actually, that's what I should be doing. I should be crashing your show. Why didn't I think of that? Thank you. Next time I will do that. But seriously, folks. All right, Adam. Did you send me a cultural shorts today or not, or did I just miss it?
I didn't send one today. I was just sending some links to the. But then I got down a Malanka rabbit hole, and I was like, it's too early for that. We got to at least wait,
yes,
until after Christmas.
Better.
But it's my favorite to start getting into those articles with all the crazy stories and crazy costumes and But we got to.
Oh yeah.
I went down a Malanka rabbit hole. That's what happened. Apologize.
Okay, that happens. No, that's fine. That's fine. We definitely have enough to talk about. I think one of us, actually, I made a couple of tweets that I think I want to just go and put up in the nest. If I can hand it over to you for a minute, because, I can't walk and chew gum at the same time, and I will be right back.
I was already chewing gum. Okay. I spit it out. Now we have Prince Heather and Will, both real professionals. How's Prince doing tonight? Dobre moje. Awesome. That's pretty good. That's a general feeling of Christmas goodness, думаю. Just getting into the spirit here. Thinking about this great book that we're going to do. I had no idea that there was rice and kutia in the eastern parts. That was a revelation to me, and it's so Eastern. How neat is that? How wide of a country is Ukraine that rice replaced wheat berry in the far eastern parts, and I'm sure they do it all the way to the Caucasus too, which is traditional. If we want to get revanchist, we got to go past the actual international borders. But
Of course, well,
I might be
Kuban definitely is
overstepping.
Ukraine, and Belgorod is Ukraine, right? I mean, if we're going to go by that, and most of what Sauron claims as Russia is actually Mongolia, so that works for me.
Yes, Mongolian suburb, Moscow. So you got that stuff in the nest. What is it all about?
Did well. One of them, it's two things. One of them is actually something that you sent me the link to is that wonderful article on Ukrainian Christmas, and then also in Ukrainer there was a photo array, a gallery of just pictures. Most it looks like it's mostly up in the Carpathians, but of it's on the Ukrainian side, but you don't really need to be able to read it to enjoy the pictures. It just shows all of the different traditions and things, and people dressing up, and the trembita, those huge horns that they play, horns, whatever, trumpets, like these 10-foot long things that they raise up in the air and blow on. It's pretty amazing. I saw one of those when I was in Ukraine. Anyway, so I just wanted to put a couple of things up if people want to, pursue it further or see some of the things we're talking about, because the problem with this format, obviously, is we have to describe things, as we can't just show you a picture, which is probably good sometimes.
Yeah, which is why my demonstration of the pantsuit fitting for Ukrainian dancers is going to be quite anticlimactic. I'll tell you guys
Wait a
all
minute,
about it as
Adam,
I'm doing
you're
it.
going to wear something?
Oh boy.
I need
wear
pictures.
no pictures. It's live radio demonstration. I'll send
As,
you a
as
meme.
as Charles Osgood used to say, he has a face for the radio. I definitely know too. No, Adam had a wonderful. It's a wonderful picture of a Ukrainian man trying on a pair of dress pants to make sure they fit. And think about the hopak while you're thinking about making sure these pants fit. It's very funny.
And when you hear the fabric tearing, that size is a little small.
Exactly. Thank God for spandex. All right. Oh boy, we've already got some people who want to chime in here. James, welcome. What can you say to us?
What can I say to you? I can say that I think um, I lost my train of thought now that you asked me directly, Robin. It's a terrible thing. No, I think that it almost reminded me of a kind of semaphore. That's what I thought when I saw it. I said, semaphore. That is a very difficult kind of semaphore to do, but so I admire there. But then I realized, no, that's not what it is at all. Anyway.
All right. Aria, hi.
Can you hear me?
We certainly kind of haven't heard you for a
Uh,
while too. It's
I,
good to see you.
I
Hey,
can't hear you.
I'm sorry, having some mic issues.
No, Arya, I can't hear you. I'm just
I'll
pulling away.
recycle. I'll be right back.
No,
No,
I'm
Aria,
just
you're
kidding.
fine. You're
I'm
fine.
only
James
kidding.
is
Stop,
just
stop,
being
stop.
I'm being
James is
really
just being
rude and
himself.
being my crazy self.
Love your work, James.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to drive him off like that. I was just pulling his leg. Sorry.
That was uncalled for, James. You're a
Apparently
monster.
so.
Adam,
See what you did?
he's
Yes.
practically Canadian. He said sorry twice in one sentence.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Well, anyway, so I'll say something else nicer, and that is that I'm glad it's book club. I'm glad that you guys are done with the book. Not that it was bad, just that we're on to our next pretty soon, and that's the one about Russia and Ukraine, entangled history and diverging futures, or whatever it is. That's the one we're on next.
Yeah, pretty close. Russia and
Okay,
Ukraine entangled history, diverging states. And I'm
there
very
we go.
sorry.
Diverging states.
I meant to put a I meant to put a tweet up about that. I'll try to do that very soon. Maria Popova, Popova, and Oksana Shevel. It's a very interesting book. I'm about halfway through it, and it's going to be another deep dive, but a good one, and particularly into why Ukraine is not Russia. Very interesting. It's all some of the questions I had when I was first learning more about or about about the situation in that area of the world, and I kept on asking myself, why is it how did Ukraine and Ukrainians turn out so different from Russians? I mean, in a very good way, obviously. And this book goes a long way to explaining some of the historical background. So I'm really looking forward to it. And as I said, I will try to at least put something in my Twitter feed in the next day or two, so you get all the specifics. Okay, back to you, Adam.
I still don't want you to. Oh, Arya's back. Let's see if we can finally hear him. I'm just kidding. We could hear you. And then we gave James shit because he was messing with you. It was fun. That's it. Go ahead. I'm just kidding, James.
In any case, now I don't know what to believe, but regardless, quite funny. In any case, that threw me off. Adam, pictures and video, or it didn't happen. That being said, I will completely let Prince do all the verification. You do not need to share it with the rest of us. Second of all, Robin, I read a very interesting book on a Nestor, blanking on his last name while I was sick in bed, and I want to send you a copy. It's not written by a Ukrainian or a Jewish person, but it gets into some of the accusations and some of the stuff he did, and it breaks down the history, and it was very fascinating to read, because it quotes certain reports that were given at the time by non-Ukrainians, right, about what was going on, being like, these accusations are BS and are trying to do it, and it actually breaks down a lot of the incidents that I didn't realize what exactly had happened, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I think it did a very good job of it. So I want to see if I can get you an actual copy. I know it's not in print anymore, but I have a PDF also. But I'm going to get it to you and make sure you read it, because I think it was very interesting. And just another interesting note in regards to Christmas and Hanukkah. I've seen a huge amount of articles in the last couple of days, both in the Jewish press and in Western media, about Christmas and Hanukkah in Ukraine. So it's nice to see some positive coverage when it's not, Ukraine decides to do something or Ukraine gets hammered. So I thought that was worth bringing up. I've seen a big spike there. Back to you.
Very interesting. Yeah, thank you. All right. If you want to send me a PDF, I read more and more on my Kindle these days, and the PDF is fine. I actually find it easier to read on a Kindle than a book at this point, with the way my eyes are. Yeah, that sounds very interesting, and that's certainly. We Professor Bondarenko was on this morning talking about Russian propaganda, and that's an area that it would be nice to see more written on, particularly. The involvement in skewing the memory of what went on in the interwar years. As we know, nobody was without fault, but there was a lot of manipulation, and it's good to know that people are seeing the full picture more. Yeah, back to you, Arya.
No, the really interesting thing is there's a direct quote in there, and it's gonna. There's a statement where it's saying something where it's some European guy from one of the Allied powers, right? So this is somebody who was allied with Russia at the time, right? Russia then disintegrated into civil war, and Ukraine tried having their own country. And in any case, there were accusations that he was involved in pogroms against Jews and against several other groups of people. And the guy who was involved in actually, checking and went to Ukraine to check was like, no, these are baseless accusations. He did the polar opposite. Like here, example A, example B, example C.
Sorry, Arya, I missed who he is. Sorry.
A Nestor Markov, blanking on his last name. I'm sorry, I'm still not feeling great.
It sounds familiar. I know who you mean. I can't think of it.
He was a so after the Russia collapsed, right, and went into civil war, there originally were two factions in Ukraine. that somewhat worked together and at other points didn't, and there were multiple reiterations. But basically, Ukraine declared independence and was an anarchist state or something along those lines. It was referred to as
Nestor Machno.
Mekayevimio.
What is it, Adam?
Thank you.
Nestor Machno.
That's it, exactly. Thank you.
And in any case, the originally the Soviets made a temporary truce and said everything would be okay, and they'd recognize Ukraine, and then they invaded. There was a lot of propaganda against this government. And the interesting thing, right, is where you have other historical characters where you can go to specific events and get direct witnesses who were survivors of the pogrom or the massacre, the killings. You can't in any of these cases. It's all accusations from the Russians, and it was very interesting to read. And this is a book from like the 70s or 80s. If memory serves, it might have been a little later, but it just was very fascinating to see. It explained with actually sourcing people from the time who were not politically sympathetic to this guy. Right, I have no political sympathy to this guy. The guy who wrote the report was a civil servant who was not a socialist or a communist or an anarchist or anything. So, in any case, I'm getting a call. I gotta run.
Thanks, Arya. By the way, folks, people are coming in. It would be wonderful if you guys could. People are here already. Just take a second to retweet the space to let people know that we're here and we have a special program. Adam? Did you see that wonderful card that Forrest made for our Christmas program? Complete with the snow falling and the spider in the cone. I just thought it was wonderful.
I sure did. I commented that was the first GIF that I was ever in, even though it was just my handle. It felt famous.
Yes, that is true. That is true. Yeah. So, did we find that story about the spider? I give out homework on this space, but I don't know. There was a story. Oh, look at that. Very nice.
I didn't, because I have it bookmarked. Dajmy один два
Хвилинку. Добре. Дуже рада. All right. Anyway, so Adam is going to take a second and find that. We'll start the book club at 8 because that's what was promised. So, but I wanted to read a wonderful story which Adam read for us once before about a spider, which spiders are considered. It's certainly every Ukrainian I've asked, is the spiders are considered lucky if you find a spider in your house, which is probably true because they do eat all the insects that otherwise be infesting your grain and everything else. But anyway, there are some wonderful Ukrainian stories about Christmas. Christmas is a magical time in Ukraine in general, I think, from what I've read. I mean, ironically, I've never spent a Christmas in Ukraine. And my only memories of Ukrainians and Christmas was my friend in law school who loved being Ukrainian because she was Orthodox and she was able to go shopping for Christmas presents the day after Western Christmas. So she always got great bargains. But I'm looking forward to hearing. I hope we get some more. We have several Ukrainians with us already. I hope we get a few more up, and I'm looking forward to hearing. We're gonna go over part of Hrytsak's book just quickly. I hope hit some high points, and then hopefully we'll hear from people things they remember. Will Teal, have you become Ukrainian while I wasn't watching?
Well, I do have a culture question, and I think it's a New York culture question. Ukrainian New York culture question that you might be uniquely placed to answer. Is the Ukrainian restaurant in New York that's so good called Veselka?
Veselka, which means rainbow. Veselka.
So
Yeah.
I'm just browsing through the channels last night, right, and came across this movie that I've never seen, but and I don't really want to see. It was called Ocean's 8. It's like a remake of Ocean's 11 with women. And the two female actresses, Sandra Bullock and the other lady, are sitting in a restaurant called Veselka. One of them's eating, likes Ukrainian food, the other one doesn't. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting. That made popular culture way back then.
Very interesting. And I've forgotten about that. I was thinking, yeah, it's a great place. In fact, I'm going there on Christmas Eve they're having a Sveti Večer, the 12 traditional dishes, and they have an all day seating. You can go in and and celebrate with the traditional Ukrainian food. I was thinking you were mentioning a different restaurant, different film. There was a film made. David Duchovny is the narrator. It's called Restaurant on the Corner at the Center of the World, and it's about the history of Veselka. Veselka was founded in 1953, I believe. It was a little candy store kind of place, sold cigarettes, and newspapers, and stuff. And in Little Ukraine, in Manhattan. At that point, it was a big center of Ukrainians. It's not so much anymore because it's gotten very expensive and people also have moved out, into the suburbs. But it's the story of this restaurant and the family that owns it, and everything they went through. And a lot of the story is about people who work there now, Ukrainian people several young men who were there and who were, they helped bring their families over, and it's very touching. It's a really wonderful movie. The family that owns Veselka is a really, really upstanding people. They do a lot for Ukraine. They raise tons of money. Every bowl of borscht, I believe it is, they give all the proceeds go directly to relief efforts in Ukraine. And the movie is charming. I highly recommend it. It's on Apple TV Plus. It's Veselka. Yeah, I think it's something sitting. Maybe it's sitting on. Oh no, it's standing on the corner in the center of the world, I think is what it's called. Anyway, it's a great movie. It's a great restaurant. I'm looking forward. I every once in a while I have a bad day and I get on the train and go in and have a bowl of borscht because it makes me feel better. Thank you, Will. Adam, how we doing?
Дуже dobre. If I could find my mic. Are you guys ready for the legend of the
Gotovi.
Hotavayi? Many years ago, there lived in a small house a woman with 2 children. Times were hard in Ukraine, and especially hard in this home, as the father had been drafted by the foreign soldiers who occupied their beloved land. They needed a skilled blacksmith to tend to their horses, as they were fighting many battles that year. And unfortunately, the father of this poor family was the best blacksmith for miles around. Thus, he was far from home. With the times being so hard, food was scarce. But this Christmas Eve, the mother had still managed to prepare for her small family the traditional dishes. There are only tiny portions of each dish, but they had their kutia and a very small kolach, a few perohe, or varenike. This guy calls them perohe. He must be from the far west, like me. And holopshi. We all know what holopshi are, right? Please stop me if you want any explanations of these food, because before a day or two before you might get to eat them, and maybe we don't even want to do that. And several imaginative dishes made from the few vegetables the mother had managed to harvest that fall. The house had been cleaned properly, the rushnik, embroidered cloth, washed and pressed and arranged on the icons, and they had brought in a diduch, an ornament made from a sheaf of wheat, to place in the corner. The children had watched for the first star. Then they had their special meal, Syata Vacharya. After, the mother and her son and daughter began singing beautiful koyadke, traditional Christmas Eve songs, and then walked to the church. Even old Babusia, who had been feeling rather poorly recently, came along. There were many absent faces, other men and several youths who had been taken from their families by the soldiers. Finally, at night, the mother lay in bed, unable to sleep. So she thought she had done the best she could do with the little they had, except for the Yalenka, the Christmas tree. The young son had found a small tree, and together they had all gone to the forest and cut it down and carried it home. There had still been short stubs of the candles that they had used last year, and they had placed them on the tree. They had not lit them yet, for they had decided they would wait until the carolers came, so they could share the light of the short candles would give with others. There had been no money for the brightly colored papers and gilt papers they usually made ornaments from, and the stocks of flour and honey were so meager that the mother had not dared to bake even a few cookies to hang on the tree. There were just a few short scraps of ribbon the daughter had tied on the branches, and 3 of the precious apples had been polished and strung with string. In the darkness of the night, the mother thought of the poor little tree and prayed to God that the next year the family's Christmas tree would once again be gaily decorated as in past years, that her husband once more would be in their home. Give me 1 second. Also living in the small house was a rather small spider. Being a spider, she had not lived very long, but she had been born in this house and had come to love the whole family. Because it was considered good luck to find a spider in the home, no one had ever threatened her life. She often found crumbs from their meals carefully placed near her web in the corner of the room. It saddened her to think that the mother was so unhappy about the Christmas tree. The spider had never seen a Yalenka before, and she thought it looked quite nice. The spider walked over to the tree and thought, I wonder. And then she decided and went straight to work. She was up all night, and as the sun was just starting to rise on the horizon, she was so exhausted that she fell asleep right on the highest branch of this tree. Still asleep, the poor woman stirred when she heard the cries of her children. Mama, Mama, look, the tree, the tree. She opened her eyes up and stared. The morning light flooded through the small window and fell on the tree. It was covered from bottom to top with silvery spider webs of the most beautiful design. And there at the very top she could see their own dear little spider. Children, she must have worked through the night to have created such a beauty, the mother exclaimed. Just then they heard the sound outside their door, and before they knew what was happening, in came their father. Tato, Tato, the children called. As he warmed himself in front of the stove, the father explained how the battles had ended and he had traveled many days by foot to be home for their Svyat Večer. But I have arrived too late, he sadly ended his tale. No, no, it is just the beginning, the mother said. Look at the miracle our little spider has wrought on our poor Christmas tree. She has brought us good luck, a beautiful tree, and our father and dear husband home again. And there are still the many days of celebration till Yordan. The family spent Christmas Day enjoying each other's company. In the evening, when the carolers came to sing at their home, the father lit the small candles on the tree so that they could share its light with their visitors. And the little spider looked down from her high perch and smiled on her beloved family. It's upset.
I love the Christmas spider, and it was that story when you and I were co-hosting together last year. I think by the time you were done reading the story, I had gone and looked on Amazon and bought myself a Christmas spider, and I'm not kidding, Adam. And I was so excited when it came, and that Christmas spider actually hangs year round above my kitchen sink. So I see it every single day. And that is one of the best stories. I absolutely love that story.
And it's a little preview for our book club book, because a lot of those traditions like the Diduch and Kutia are very quickly rushed through in the story, but they're part of our Hrytsak book, our historical Christmas tome, Robin.
Yes, this is true. He doesn't mention a didoch at all, as I remember, though. I was thinking, it's
Oh,
interesting. There are some things that he's left out. It's a small book. It's a charming little book, though. Anybody who wants to have a very special little book about Christmas, and not just Ukrainian Christmas, he does go into the history of some things in general, the history of Christmas carols, and the history of the nativity scene, the Vertep in Ukrainian. He goes into in quite a lot of detail, and I thought was interesting. Anyway,
I think he
yeah.
does mention the diduch as a response to Christmas tree in the Christmas tree section,
Oh, maybe I
right?
didn't read through
Because
that
it
again.
was
Yeah, you're
actually
probably
a
right. Yeah.
later tradition that was kind of a poor man's replacement for the Christmas tree because, there wasn't always wood in the middle of the pet surf
Step.
farm.
Yes, yeah. I would imagine too. If you are a serf, there were probably pretty severe limitations on cutting trees because they belong to the owner rather than to you. Yeah, Prince, go ahead.
All I was gonna say is, one year, this was 2 or 3 years ago, um, I was co-hosting and just randomly, Lita came up and shared with us, and I wish she was available, but she's so freaking busy. And she recalled for us a time when she spent Christmas in Ukraine, and she took us through an entire 12-course meal, and it was one of the best things ever. I just absolutely love it. So I'm really looking forward to hearing about all of this. And Adam, you and I can have fights again about if it's Hungarian food or Ukrainian food.
I don't have these fights. These are your fights. I'm like, I'm sure Hungarians eat similar stuff. We're neighbors. And you're like, that's Hungarian. And I'm like, holy moly, man. Settle down, you crazy Magyars.
Hey, listen, considering that a good percentage of the food is made out of potatoes and onions, it really is sort of silly to fight over who owns the potatoes and onions. But what do I know? Adam, I mean, I know you're Adam. James, go ahead.
Oh yeah. So I just wanted to say, is it true this is a Casca?
Yes, yes, the Kaska is a Ukrainian folk story. Yeah, exactly.
It's a
Very
Koyadna
good.
Kaska.
And if you had
Very good.
many, you'd have Kaski.
Yeah, Kaske with that funny backwards N on the end.
Kaske, yeah, Kaske.
Kaske.
Yeah.
Yep,
Anyway,
exactly.
well, no, that was just to show off that much. Anyway,
Adam James is blowing us all away with his Ukrainian these days. Have you noticed this?
it's
Talk.
not true. It's not true. You guys can actually
Oh
carry on
no. Oh no.
conversations, so I'm not buying it. Anyway, what I really wanted to say
You
too
just think it's a conversation. It could all be
Just the
nonsense.
just the pronunciation alone, like, is getting way, 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 way better.
Yep, that's right.
Well, I noticed that I'm several weeks into that repeating thing, where it just repeats the same things over and over. And then I went into some practice, and I found that there's whole different sets, still stuff that they had in there. But what I'm thinking, Duolingo now, I'd buy 1,000 word pack if they came up with that, even 100 word pack. I would buy that just for the vocabulary growth because what I have found is that you can say what you like about it, and I've said some things about it. It's very well motivated. It's motivating, and if you can make a game out of it, it works. So yeah. Y'all blew that. Yeah.
Yeah, if for vocabulary, a good place to look is ukrainianlessons.com. She has a pack of, I think it's the first 1,000 words in Ukrainian. It's very nicely done, and she's a professional teacher. She does something, Adam, that I absolutely love. Is whenever she teaches you a verb, she always gives you the imperfective and perfective together. You learn them together. Like patate zapatate. You learn those two together right at the start, so you've always got them in your head. This is a great help later on when you're trying to figure out, what to use. But anyway, I suggest that it's Ukrainianlessons.com generally is very well put together. The podcasts are entertaining, and you can learn a lot from. I bought the second year of the stuff to get the written lessons and everything, and it's really worth it. And as I said, she has two. I think it's one is 1,000 words, and then another one that's 5,000 words. It's you can put them into what is that flashcard app? Oh, I don't remember. It's a nice
Anki.
flashcard app. Anki, yeah, that's exactly right. Thank you, Lexicon. Anki, yeah, and so you can use that to drill. Yeah, I highly recommend it, and they're good words. They're words you'll use anyway. I think Lexicon has an
Or
experience with this.
or alternatively, James, you could join me in the creation of the new language Ukrainiglish that we're going to replace Surzhyk with in Ukraine because
Yeah.
Russian's not going to be the second language anymore. So you can be like, "Я хочу ордерувати на скипу dishes." Розумієш?
I thought you already spoke that language, Adam.
I know.
Yeah. I
It's really
lublю
good.
that.
And
Yeah, I
James is going
lublю
to get
that.
fluent too. And it's going to replace Surzhyk because who fucking needs Surzhyk, right?
Oh,
Well,
absolutely.
I
Yeah.
probably end up with a mash of different languages, the few words of German I know, the few words of French, and just jumble them all together. That would be a nice way to go.
Yeah, well, there's some guy who did that once. He called it Esperanto. So you could just say you speak a dialect of Esperanto.
But in all seriousness, I'll check that out. I added that to our invisible what to call it now? Purple pill? No. But I did notice that it seems to be a function of cache.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, is anybody able to access the purple pill? I don't see it on the screen anymore. Does anything go in there though?
Have you any certified people here?
You should be able to just like go to the post of the live space and put stuff in there.
You can do that's where
Oh,
you'll see it.
interesting. Yeah.
That's where they stick. That's where the purple pill sticks. Yes. But apparently, so Sparkles is a paid account, and she had a purple pill.
Oh boy, I hope whatever Blue Sky ends up getting an alternative for us. But I digress. And Melon Husk isn't listening, right?
Well, Brant said something about that. Brandy said something about that, that they're working on Sky Spaces. Hope they are. I hope they are.
Yeah, it's I mean, especially I mean, the technical problems, okay, I would live with, but the stifling of opinions that certain higher ups don't agree with, including Ukraine advocacy, is really annoying, and it would be nice to be free of it. But that's not what we're here for. Okay, Adam, let's see.
The richest man in the world is really interested in everyone having equal rights and free speech. I mean, if you don't believe this, you're obviously, silly.
We need to go for re-education is what we need. Anyway, I
The
have not.
good news is the school days won't be nearly as long.
But work days will be twice as long.
So listen, guys, I have a question for you. I have been running around like a crazy person the last couple of days. I haven't kept up with anything, but it looks as though things are still going great guns in Georgia. I saw a video. I think actually Prince may have forwarded it on before of demonstrations in Tbilisi, and it sure doesn't look like they're backing down. Anyway, it's very interesting. And in Serbia, apparently, there is some. There is also some, pretty big protests going on. Maybe some people have finally had enough and are willing to really push to change things. James.
I think we got away from this with COVID, and because we've had some large protests in the United States, but I think there's been some things to protest, and we haven't done it, and it kind of bothers me. I'd like to see us go back to it, but on the other hand, there was a certain person who kind of almost killed people with the treatment of the crowd that was not misbehaving as bad as all that to deserve what happened to some. So there's some fear, perhaps. I don't know, but I do think this is a great way to say things to the government that they have a hard time refuting.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's also a real morale booster. I remember when I was a kid, it was the height of the protests against the Vietnam War. Looking back on it now that I know the politics better, I might not have been so gung ho, but at the time I was like 12 years old. What do I know? But the feeling of solidarity that you get from a demonstration, and some of the large Ukraine demonstrations I've been to have really been like that. I wish we had more of them. It really it energizes everybody who's involved, and if it's large enough and you yell loud enough, it gets attention. I wish we could keep the energy going. I sort of have the feeling that it's it's gone down a bit. I'm debating. James. I don't know. I'm debating about going to Washington on February 24th to for the demonstrations there. I know there's going to be a 3-day thing, and it would be really nice to see a big turnout and people making really representing. James.
That's just what I was going to say. I am going to go. And I have my American and Ukrainian flag on one stick to carry. And I'm thinking about making like a sideways stick across it to say, stop Russia's genocide. I think that'll be my message this year. And last year, I wore this goofy little sandwich. You know what I mean? Like the sandwich advertisement. It was too flimsy, and it didn't really. I didn't tie it down properly. I had it over my shoulders, but not. And it was cardboard, so it blew around in the wind. But I had that report thing that we used to do, like a card for it.
This space that shall not be named, as Adam calls it. Yes, I saw a picture of you with it. It was great.
Yeah, that. And so I think I'll do something like that, but just on the back, I think. Because on the other side, I want to, talk about the genocide and say something because I want to stick this in their faces. I'm sorry. I think it needs to be rather than later. Now's the time to challenge the administration about like, this is a genocide. If you do anything but keep on delivering aid, you're really abetting a genocide. And so don't do that, please. I think you can be better gentlemen than that. But given some of the political statements and who supports whom in that realm of people who do genocide, I'm worried about this administration a lot. The ties to AFD are disturbing, for one.
Yeah, and I think you're right. It's this is people don't want to see the truth, and it's very important that they not be allowed to look away. This is a genocide. It's nothing new. Russia has been trying to destroy Ukraine for a very long time, and it's something that has to be emphasized over and over and over again. That we can't we don't have the option of saying, well, let them take care of it. It's a regional thing. That's the line that people get when it's a genocide. That by definition is not regional anymore. That genocide affects every single one of us as human beings, and we need to make sure that people are not able to look away, that they have to admit it.
Yes, indeed. So anyway, I will go. I know I've got a copy of their little advertisement about the date and times. And if you don't know where to stay, there's a suggestion, but I won't say it here. We'll just leave that out of talking in open. But contact somebody who knows. I know where one of the most common places is to stay, and it's good. So anyway. I hope people can turn out, and I'm going to probably drive. So I think I know who I'm going to see if they want to travel with. But that's another thing is you guys can organize a little bit and save if you're close by. But we had a pretty darn good turnout last year. It'd be great to have more. And talk about cementing people together. You realize you really are all out for the same thing. And I had a wonderful opportunity to talk to a Ukrainian woman as we walked across, along part of the mall. And it was just wonderful because she wasn't anybody I knew, no connections, no markings, but it obviously from where she was walking, so struck up a conversation and learned where she was from and how things are going. And I told her kind of the same. And it's great to make those kind of contacts out of the blue sometimes. And you get to meet, you realize that, for example, I'll just pick on Will, that he doesn't always carry an alligator or crocodile.
Good point.
Doesn't he ride the crocodile? Like stand on its back? That's what I saw in previous memes.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, James, do send me that information about where people are staying. I'm definitely gonna try. If you're gonna be, I've been trying to meet up with James for a couple of years already, and we never seem to be in Washington at the same time. So I will call my pet sitter in the morning and make sure that I've got somebody to look at my animals for a couple of days, and we'll go and paint the town red, right?
Well,
Paint the
I was
town
I was
yellow,
thinking
and
about
blue.
canceling my Christmas so I can go to and take advantage of the reservations that you have at Velsa, whatever. Anyways, yeah. Sorry.
Veselka, yeah, Veselka. Actually, Veselka doesn't take reservations. So, but
Oh
no,
God, no.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm trying to strong arm a friend of mine to go with me, but he hasn't quite agreed yet. So will continue to work on that. But hey, what the heck? If I go by myself, I go by myself. It's wonderful because you get there and it's all either Ukrainians or people who love Ukraine. And even if you don't know anybody, you're still among friends. So I'm looking forward to it. But yeah,
I
yeah, and
I
then
met a lot
yeah.
of people there, and I'm horrible, you guys. I'm really terrible at remembering names and faces. If you change your hair, for example, I may no longer recognize you, but I still met a lot of people, and now I know what they actually look like, and it's great to meet and talk. And so I really deepened some relationships that I had on air. The face to face stuff, it's great. It's a wonderful opportunity, and and it's also I hope one of the last times this event is going to happen. And you wouldn't want to miss this. And if you can't go to Ukraine, can go to Washington, and actually that might be the better investment rather than spending money on Ukraine. Going to
No,
Washington
no, no, no,
and
James. First of all, it'll
sticking
cost.
it in their face and at DC. I'm sorry. Yeah, I hear you though.
Okay, no, that's
Ah,
true. Although I must say, given what I spent the last two times I went to Washington, I think it wouldn't cost me much more to have gone to Ukraine. Washington is unbelievably expensive. I mean, it's really ridiculous. But I mean, I wouldn't even want to admit what I paid for a hotel room the last time, and I ended up getting it in a hotel where I had to take Ubers because it was not near any public transportation. So, yeah. No, I understand what you're saying, James, but I would say if anybody, if I, and I tell anybody who asks, and even if you didn't ask, but I'll tell you, and if you have any possibility of going to Ukraine, go. It's a wonderful country. I mean, even with what's going on now, it's not to be missed. I'd be there back in a second if I could. I have to get somebody to take care of my animals, but it's just it definitely is worth the trip, right, Adam?
Absolutely. It's completely lovely. And
okay.
it's the cheapest Ukrainian or European vacation you could probably take. That's for dang sure.
If you're paying in American dollars or those fake things that they use up in Canada. One of the things I was discussing with my English conversation buddy who lives in Mykolaiv is what we think is cheap is not cheap if you're spending hryvnia if you live in Ukraine. So you have to be careful when you're there, not saying, "Oh, I love Ukraine. Everything is so cheap," because for Ukrainians, I mean, it's not terribly, it's possible to live, but it is cheap for us because of the exchange rate. And so it's just good because then we go there and spend our money, which helps the Ukrainian economy. And it's a lovely place to go. It's definitely definitely, if you can possibly swing it, you should.
Lost you there, Robin.
Oh yeah, well, I just turned the mic off and went to sleep. Um, all right. Well, we've got about 12 minutes to book club. As I said, I don't want to start ahead. Oh, well, Prince will take care of 12 minutes. Go ahead, darling.
Well, yeah, I sent you something in the background, and the question is, it's sort of historical, sort of cultural here. What was with that saber that Yisk raised above his head at the after he won that fight?
Oh, wasn't that amazing, Adam? You know more about this than I do. This was
So
amazing.
Ivan Mazepa, he was, some people consider him the creator or one of the creators of the Ukrainian nation. He's actually a friend of Peter the Not So Great originally, but felt like his people were betrayed and then went to war, became a Cossack hetman in classic spurned Ukrainian gentry fashion, and joined the Swedish in a war, but they lost. And one interesting thing, and I wanted to Google it before, I never got a chance, but about Mazepa's gold being which was about $14 million at the time worth of, or pounds at the time worth of gold that was stored in British banks. And then he lost the war with Sweden, and it was never claimed. If it was claimed today by the modern Ukrainian state, it would bankrupt the crown. But don't worry, guys, we're not going to do that. But I have a good post about it. So yeah, and he held up, I think it was not Mazepa's sword, which is lost to history, but a replica of it. And yeah, just Usyk is so great. Like, he's just, hey, there you go. Just showed up in the nest.
But it says it is a 17th century sword, and that's what I was posting. The United 24 Media put out a really good this short 8-tweet thread about who Mazepa is, who he was. So I thought that was pretty cool.
So it's not, yeah, I heard conflicting reports, because at first I heard it was Mazepa's actual sword. But if United 24 is saying it's not a replica, then let's go with that.
Well, and one of the things I read last night is it resides like permanently in a museum in Chernihiv, and there was a bunch of work done with that museum to get it appropriately and very carefully transported to Riyadh for him to be able to do this. And so there was a big, huge effort on the part of the museum staff in order to make that happen with all the correct regulations and everything like that allowed for the transport of the saber. So that's pretty cool that it resides in Chernihiv. So yeah, but it's saying it's a that he raised the weapon that fought for Ukraine freedom over 300 years ago. So that is like rather awesome, man.
Yeah, and Usyk he strikes such a figure. He's you can tell. I mean, I've seen pictures of videos of him like talking with children and wounded warriors and that kind of thing. The man has a heart, but he does. I love, he does a really good impression of a serious Cossack. The way he dresses and the way he carries himself. It's I like him a lot, and obviously Ukraine had a pretty good idea he was going to win. That they went to all the time and expense and effort to get this saber transferred to Riyadh, where he did in fact win.
Don't you love when Prince does that thing where she asks you a question about something and you stammer an answer about it off the top of your head, and she's like, actually,
yeah.
This. Here's the thread in the nest. It shows up while you're talking.
Don't you love it? Yeah, we love
Prince.
Prince.
I love it. It's just, yeah. Thanks, Prince.
It's
Merry
not like
Christmas.
I didn't send it to you in the background where you could have like read it out and done it yourself. I just don't
Well,
want to
yeah, and
read it out.
of course, neither of us have anything to do other than read stuff in the back channel in the middle of co-hosting. I mean, it does seem like
If
we're not
I'm
making
You,
sense,
you
tagging
really,
but
you
you
we
in
really
are.
should. There is some good stuff back there.
I'm
Yeah,
sending
folks.
memes, man. Appropriate memes at the
Yeah,
time. This
listen,
is
listen, folks.
important.
Anybody, if you've ever considered volunteering to work for this madhouse, one of the great perks of working for this is to get access to the back channels where stuff really goes on. I mean, we do have a lot of fun. But I want to point out something serious. Is
Why do you
that
think I came back? I didn't come back for any of you. I came back for the freaking back
yeah,
channel. I'm just
exactly.
kidding.
No, I remember. I was thinking the other day. I've been very fortunate to be able to co-host with Alan a couple of times lately, and I was remembering the first day I co-hosted. I was so petrified, and I remember I was on with him for 3 hours, and by the time I got off, my hands were shaking, my knees were shaking, the whole thing. But the thing that I was amazed at when I was approved as a co-host, I got added to all of the back channel chats, and I could not believe my eyes. We have such a blast back here. So anyway, as I said, if you have ever considered volunteering to join us, I really do, honestly, in all seriousness, think we do a lot of good, and we have a blast doing it too. So, actually, do we have, if somebody, James, bless you. Oh, thank you. James just put the volunteer form up in the nest. So consider it. Um, Co-hosting is one thing, but we definitely need people who can do audio editing for our Spotify podcasts. We research. If you have a talent, let us know, and it may be something that we could use. We're, as you know, a volunteer organization, and we have people. People come and they say what they can do. We've had people come with really incredible tech chops who now do things that we wouldn't have been able to do without those people who were able to do specific things. So anyway, James, back to you.
I need a lot of help on the space laser project. So if anybody's into that,
Well,
contact me.
Ari and I are here. We'll call the
Oh,
secret
okay.
Mossad number as soon as we
All right.
find it and
Thanks.
get that arranged. By the way, someone posted something. I won't give a name because I don't have his permission, but about Mazeppa, which is true. I had read this. This is one of the few Cossack hetmen who forbade pogroms against Jews and allows Jews into his host with equal rights. Yeah, and he was might have been the only one who executed people for killing Jews against his orders. So, and it's very. I mean, these are the things to remember when the Russian talking point about Ukrainian Nazis comes up. What they say, when you point a finger at somebody else, four fingers are pointing back at you. This is certainly the case of the Russians. If the Russians accuse Ukrainians of being something, it's probably because the Russians are like that. And in the case of being anti-Semites, Ukrainians are extremely bad at being anti-Semites. The Russians have the Olympic medal. The Ukrainians are not good anti-Semites at all. In fact, the whole time I was in Ukraine, I didn't hear or see any kind of anti-Jewish sentiment, even the slightest bit. So I was very disappointed. Maybe lexicon.
Yeah, and so another great thing about Mazeppa is that the Russians absolutely hate him. They just hate him to death. And when I was in, let me see, St. Pete's State University studying Russian history, this Russian history teacher who totally has the current line would, he said some awful things about Ukraine, so I was obliged to say a few things. He just would have a fit so easily, but I remember him swearing that the Ukrainians betrayed us. They betrayed Peter. And so at the time I wasn't even sure who this was, but of course this is the whole thing, the Ukrainians, the Ukrainians betrayed us. Anyway, that's Ivan Mazeppa for the Russians. So they probably hated that he wasn't anti-Semitic as well. There's nothing he did that they didn't despise, but you can see how easily he gets their goat. So it's another reason to like the guy.
Agreed. I actually have a 10 hryvnia coin on my desk that I leave right in the middle of my desk all the time to that I will bring with me when I go back to Ukraine. And on the back it is Ivan Mazepa. There's a picture of him, so I think about him often. Yes, and he was excommunicated by the Russian Orthodox Church 200 years ago or whatever. They they really don't like him. But I think that probably gets you into heaven faster if you've been excommunicated by the Russian Orthodox Church.
True story. Yeah, I just love it. I love Usyk. I love his hairdo. My wife won't let me get the hairdo, but so please write her letters.
Adam, I was thinking the other day, I would love to meet your wife. The poor woman is married to a radio station.
She's a heart of gold. That's all.
Yeah, she must be. That's wonderful. Yeah, I had that feeling. I mean, I'm in all seriousness, I'm grateful to her that she's willing to share you with us for so many hours, because we have a blast on the space. You remember the time Mockers brought her mother on the space? Maybe you should bring your wife on sometime, or if she's crazy enough to want to do it. It would be fun.
I don't know. The best couples are opposites in a lot of ways, and I have no problem with public speaking.
Gotcha. Okay, never mind. Yes, I've noticed that. Never mind. But anyway, okay, it is 7:59. I'm chomping at the bit. So shall we just get started? What do you think? Okay, we are not actually reading a book tonight. We're not really doing a review of it. We're using a wonderful little book by Nadivka, Gerbish, and Yaroslav Hrytsak, the historian whose history of Ukraine we studied already, called A Ukrainian Christmas. It's almost a little coffee table book, but there's a lot of meat in it too. And it's just a wonderful little book, and we're going to be using it as a jumping off point. I'm hoping. We do have. I do think I see. Let's see. Who do we have here? Okay. I'm hoping we'll be getting another couple of Ukrainians, and I tried to strong arm a few people, so we'll see what happens. But we have Adam and we have Lexicon, so we've got a good basis here to start a conversation. Anyway, so with that, what I want to do, and let me I'm going to start with a song. And this, Adam, you'll love this. This is a wonderful choir, the Nadivka Choir of Saskatoon. They do it's a Ukrainian choir, and glad I turned the sound off, because on YouTube you get these really obnoxious ads first. Okay, here we go. Enjoy, guys. Isn't that wonderful?
Wow, that's good. Who did that?
I thought it was something. I thought there was a plane crashing outside your window for the first half of that. And the first one went through, and then
Yes.
that's so like, oh my god, that's so Carpathian.
Yeah, I'd love this.
It sounds like the missile sound from a 1980s
yeah, exactly.
toy.
Yeah, but isn't that wonderful? This is Lexicon. This is the Ukrainian Nadivka Ukrainian Choir of Saskatoon. Saskatoon is someplace north of the American border. Yes, someplace up there, near Dead Skunk Junction or something.
It was the big city nearest to where my dad was born.
Let's see. It did
named after the world's best berries.
And the first place I ever traveled to internationally to go see a Husker Du concert.
Yes, that's the best.
Oh my God. Okay, folks.
Saskatoon!
Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Yeah. Anyway, but so they have, obviously there's a big Ukrainian community there. We'll be listening to a couple of other their songs too. 'Cause I just love them. It's it's a bunch. It's a bunch of people get together and like to sing. Which is pretty much how things go especially in the small Ukrainian villages, particularly in the western part of Ukraine. Still, that people go and do caroling. We'll get to that in a little while. But anyway, we are going to. First, before we get to this, I wanted to just mention the dedication of this book. The book was dedicated. It's the dedication from our authors is in memory of Artem Dimid, 1995, 2022, and other children of Rachel murdered by the modern day Herod. Prince knows who this is. Artem Dimid, Artemi to his family, was the son of Michaelu Dimid, who's a very prominent Ukrainian Greek Catholic priest, who was traveling in South America when the full-scale invasion broke out, and he immediately came back and enlisted, went to the front lines, and was killed. I was fortunate to meet his sister Magda, who gave me a ride from the border to Lviv when I got there. Wonderful family. I was when I was in Lviv. Prince asked me to, and I was happy to. I went to his grave in the field of Mars. Over to you for a minute, Adam. Sorry.
I'm so sorry, Robin. And that is a
Oh,
beautiful dedication. And this book does a great job of tying in the themes of Christmas and why we can't give up on Ukraine and on their fight, because it's exactly what Christmas is about, is being able to celebrate with your family in whatever way you choose without some dov boyob, Robin, telling
Yes,
you
good
can
word.
only go in one church. Oh, we
Yeah.
didn't talk about dov boyob.
Well, we unfortunately will have plenty of chance to talk about it. It's a good word. I think maybe that'll be what I call him from now on.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Anyway, so one of the things that I've picked a few songs to play tonight because one of the things you notice about Ukraine right away is everything is the music is everywhere, and I mean the language itself is musical, and it's a very special thing. Um, I want to play one more song, and then we're going to read the forward in the book. This song is precious to me because it's sung by the Kiev Municipal Choir and the Ukrainian National Symphony. The Kiev Municipal Choir, my friend Oleg sang in until he had to leave Ukraine. He left Ukraine in 2000. This was recorded in 1999. He left because of the economic situation. But anyway, because I know that he was singing in this, it means a lot to me. And it's interesting. We're going to listen to different ways, different ways that Ukrainian Christmas songs are sung. This is you'll see this is not a folk kind of singing as we had in the first one. And actually, let me just turn off the I don't want to have the yes. There's always a stupid ad at the beginning of YouTube clips. Just a moment here. Okay, here we go. Oops, wait, got to get to the beginning. Okay. Thank you. Um, yeah, I mean that's obviously a concertized version of a popular song, but no, we should Nova Radi Stala, a great joy, a new joy has come to us, meaning the birth of Christ, obviously. Um, anyway, okay, I think James, go ahead. Yeah.
So I sang that song at people's doors when I was
Oh,
a
I
kid and a
love it. I
teenager.
love it.
Yeah, in Edmonton here, there was a gang from the church youth groups and things that would go around, and on January 6th, usually we do it, and February 24th, we were doing both, and or February 24th. That's fucking war in my head. December 24th, damn it. Um, yeah, we would sing that one and Dobry Večer Tobi, Pane Hospodare, and all of it. And we'd get so many treats, and some of them were terrible. You know, those pampushke, and sometimes you're like biting into it thinking it's going to be filled with good stuff, and then it's just like caramelized onions and like cabbage.
Oh
Sweet
no.
Jesus.
Oh.
Slava Bohu. I just have this revenge. It's such a terrible thing. My strongest memory from from being and then they'd feed us alcohol, right? So it was like vodka shots and onion buns, and that's one of my strongest memories is us like mouthfuls of the onion buns, like trying to get out of this poor babusa's house as quick as we could, to get to the next place
Where they might,
that
where they
had better
yeah.
treats.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, when I was a kid, we did Christmas caroling too, but we not being Ukrainian, we didn't get any food. We just had people listening to us, so obviously, but I guess yeah. So how old were you when they were plying you with vodka shots?
I think the first time it was Christmas, like when I was 14,
I love it.
when I first got a couple shots.
And the rest is history, as they say. James.
I just wanted to say that this must be a very old and popular song. You played it for that reason, I'm sure. And I have mine, and I grew up in the Catholic Church, and so like O Come, Emmanuel," Silent Night, and some other ones that a lot of people have heard. Um, I I realized that in the churches I had gone to, the Advent season was an event by itself where you could play any of those darn Christmas songs that I knew and I loved, and I really got to be able to sing them. One of the few things I can sing, but with other people only. Anyway, and I realize I missed it as I'm going to church now. It's a different church, and it's like, where did you guys come from? How did you not play this? And and then I went shopping, or I should say, we went shopping out at Jungle Jim's International Market, not too far from Cincinnati. And it is a huge market. It is got the strangest architecture because it has added on and added on and added on. It's very strange, but it was playing basically all those old favorite songs that I knew. So I was very happy, and I thought, wow, this is very interesting that a company, international company, chooses to play this. Will it not offend some or others? Nobody seemed offended. I just wanted to say that, and it was a wonderful thing to have these songs. And that's my point. Was I was very happy. It really got me in the mood because these things carry not just sound but also emotion and feeling, and a really good and a hopeful sense is what they convey to me. And so I'm really happy that this song is important, and so I'm gonna try to keep it in mind. And I've heard others. I saw a wonderful tweet about some 7 or 8 people are on a tram or whatever, or some trolley bus or something, and they're singing another song, and a Christmas song, and it was really good, another Ukrainian one. So yeah, this is cool. I think it's a good tradition. It's kind of gone out of style mostly where I am, which caroling is pretty neat to do though. So I don't know. I'm kind of rambling now, but it is very powerful for me.
Yeah, I think gets to your heart in a way that language doesn't sometimes. Yeah, when I was a kid, I remember it was the whole month before Christmas. Every excuse to sing Christmas carols, and it is a shame it's not like that anymore. And it's not particularly a religious thing. I actually have a song later on that we'll listen to that's a modern Ukrainian song. It's about Christmas. It's not particularly religious, but it's about a wonderful time of year that families are able to get together and everything. And you know, it's something that should be cherished. What I'd like to do now is we just wanted to read the foreword of Hrytsak's book. It's not that do not fear. It's not that long. I will start, and then Adam, if you could, do you have the PDF of this? That you,
Mayu.
okay, good. So I'll read the first, like the first page and most of the second. Then I'll hand it over to you, and then Nancy is going to read from um, the bottom of page 12, if that. Okay, so this is the foreword to Hrytsak and Gerbish's Ukrainian Christmas. The book you are holding in your hands was published in Ukraine a year before the onset of the full-scale Russia-Ukraine war. This war has been described in different ways, but here is the definition we offer. The country where Christmas is one of the most significant holidays of the year and is celebrated twice, honoring both Eastern and Western traditions, was attacked by a country where Christmas has lost all meaning. The popularity of Christmas in Ukraine is evidenced by the fact that St. Nicholas Day, Svatý Mykolai, is a favorite holiday among Ukrainian children, and one of the gems of world culture is the Ukrainian Christmas song known as Carol of the Bells. Ukraine is a nation where the traditions of house-to-house caroling and vertep shows, nativity plays, are still very much alive. The boundaries of this vertep caroling territory in the east, more or less, coincide with the Russian-Ukrainian border. This does not mean that there are no carols in Russia, but the so-called Russian carols are either more recent works written in the late 19th century or ancient Ukrainian carols appropriated by Russia. There's a theme we've heard before. And you won't find a crowd of carolers in Russia striding the streets of a village or town on Christmas Eve as Mykola Hoho describes in his renowned collection of short stories called Evenings on a Farm near Dikanka, or as seen in modern Lviv in the west, Kiev in the center, and Kharkiv in the east. Vertep shows share the same story. If traces of them can be found in Russian culture, they were brought there by Ukrainian or Belarusian peasants who, before the First World War, fled to Siberia or far eastern Russia in search of free land to feed their families. The simple reason for it is this. Both carols and nativity scenes are part of Western Christian culture, originating in the Middle Ages as a result of the Catholic Church wanting to convey the meaning of the Gospels to the illiterate community. Ukrainian lands are a borderland territory for Christianity. Ukraine is the West for Eastern Christianity and the East for Western Christianity. Until the beginning of the First World War, Western Christian culture met daily with Eastern Christian culture in Ukraine, and this continued in the western part of Ukraine until the Second World War. Adam?
These encounters were marked by conflicts, sometimes terribly bloodstained, as in the Polish-Ukrainian wars of the 17th or 20th centuries. On the other hand, they led to cultural exchanges and mutual borrowing. The history of the Ukrainian carol, Ne plach Rachule, Rachele, I can't remember. I'm so bad with the transliteration.
Yeah, exactly.
With the transliteration. Don't Weep, Rachel is especially poignant when seen in this light. Its melody is a variant of the Portuguese-Spanish folio in a music arrangement by Arcangelo Corelli. I can see why you got me to read this part. The furthest point where it was recorded by the folklorists is Yakutsk, where it arrived with the forcibly displaced Ukrainians. The lyrics of this carol, in their own way, tell the modern history of the Russia-Ukraine war. Ukrainian children are dying due to love for Ukraine. It is all their fault, all their fault. Oof. Many Ukrainian carols have a distinct trace of sadness to them. Even the traditional Christmas fast, unlike Advent, is spent in abstaining, prayer, and contemplation. Likewise, Ukrainian Christmas Eve dinner traditions are focused on commemorating deceased family members, gratitude for being alive and together as a family, and expressing hope for a rich harvest in the coming year. As an agricultural society, Ukrainians have always depended on the crops from their fields to survive. After Holodomor, the series of man-made famines in Ukraine organized by the Soviet regime in 1932 and 33, the sacredness of bread has become deeply ingrained in Ukrainian history and day-to-day customs. The habit of raising and respectfully kissing any piece of bread that falls on the ground, required by the older generation, has lost its mandatory status in recent years. However, after the Russian occupation of Bucha and Mariupol in March 2022, when the bodies of starved-to-death mothers and children were buried in the yards of their own homes, perhaps the customs of earlier days might be recalled to honor and preserve the memory of present-day martyrs. And as the minefields in the deoccupied regions are slowly turned back into fields sown with wheat, maybe the old tradition of bringing supper to one's nearest family and friends as a Christmas gift might return once again. Two main dishes on Ukrainian Christmas Eve are kutya and uzvar. Kutya symbolizes death and uzvar, birth and life. The essential message of Christmas and Christianity is this: death doesn't have a final word, life is eternal. Is that where Nancy starts?
Yeah.
Yep. Long before the 2022 escalation, there had been a heated discussion in Ukraine about who should bring the gifts to children for the Christmas and New Year holidays, St. Nicholas or Grandfather Frost, the latter being a Russian tradition. Many Ukrainians, with their inherent pragmatism, tried to reconcile the two by celebrating two Christmases, with Ukrainian children receiving gifts twice. Yet Russian children were deprived of this prospect, not by their own choice or by the choice of their parents, but on the whim of the Soviet regime. In the Soviet Union, not only was Christmas canceled, but New Year celebrations were banned for a time, and preschool children were even hauled out to watch the demonstrations against their parents holding New Year's parties. The ban on Christmas in the USSR, which lasted until the end of the Soviet Union in 1991, was very similar to what was going on in Germany under Hitler. And if in Soviet history there was only one instance where carols were sung openly and uncensored from the concert hall stage, it was thanks to a Ukrainian. Ivan Kozlovsky, said to be Stalin's favorite singer. Ukrainian Christmas traditions, music, and culture are deeply rooted in the country's history of sorrow, courage, and resistance. This is not so different from the very first Christmas. Then Judea was under occupation, and the emperor's myrmidon, Herod, was a terrorist and mass murderer, hunting innocent children to secure his own throne. Baby Jesus, Mary, and Joseph had to escape to Egypt in the middle of the night and stay there for several years as refugees. As C.S. Lewis put it, our whole world is enemy-occupied territory, and Christmas is the story of the rightful king, who landed in the disguise of a child to invite us to participate in a great campaign of sabotage. I love that line. The war between Ukraine and Russia is also a war for the freedom of Christmas culture. Christmas, especially during wartime, can make the impossible happen. Enemies on both front lines can reconcile for a short time, and although examples of military Christmas reconciliations might be rare, the fact they have happened gives us hope and the chance to imagine peace. They encourage us to be optimistic that these one-time military truces might have a lasting effect after the war, but only if those modern-day Herods, Hitler, Stalin, Putin, disappear for good. Christmas is a time that reminds us that justice and love prevail, even when it seems that both are slowly dying. It ensures the indestructibility of hope in times of the greatest hopelessness. For as long as we celebrate Christmas, we can neither be defeated nor destroyed. That is the message that Ukraine is trying to convey to the world, and this is what our book is about. Back to you, Robin.
Thank you. I love the way Hrytsak writes. This is well, what can I say? It's a wonderful way of looking at it, and I think he's right. Okay, so Adam, please go.
Pragmatic Ukrainian parents choosing both Christmases, both Святого Миколая и Santa Claus.
Did Moroz.
And I just would like to this just made me think of that there was a time in my youth when I fully believed in both of those magical men with all my heart.
He's his pragmatic Ukrainian heart.
Yeah. It's just like 2 Christmases, 2 Santa Clauses, no problem. This is great. But it's just so, of that East-West, of that Gates of Europe, borderland sort of theme that runs through Ukrainian culture and history. And that's just another aspect of it. We'd go to the church basement somewhere around the 15th or 17th of December, and just like at the company Christmas party that we went to right before Christmas for the parents' work, we would stand in line with all the kids, and there's a big pile of Christmas presents that all the parents donated and mixed together in a big pile, your under $20 contribution, and we'd all go and sit on St. Nicholas's lap instead of Santa's lap and receive a gift. But we'd have to talk to him in Ukrainian. But there was also a chor there too, offering to give the kids coal if they were bad. None of the kids ever got coal in our pampered 80s childhoods. But it was great, and it just made me think of being so lucky as a Ukrainian child. 2 Christmases, 2 Santa Clauses. It's pretty silly.
No, I love it. That's and it's something too that is really wonderful about the Ukrainian diaspora. How they've managed to hold on to wonderful traditions and pass them on to their children. So many groups have come. I know my family is all German, and Yeah, we ate German food and that kind of thing, but I only learned about German traditions and things when I spent some time in Germany myself. We were completely American, and we'd lost any of the, the connections to traditional ways of celebrating things. The Ukrainian community has, and at times when there was no independent Ukrainian state, where it might have been only the diaspora that was keeping Ukrainian culture alive, because the Russians were certainly doing their best to destroy it within Ukraine, but they hung on, and I think in a sort of in a spiritual kind of way that that probably helped with Ukraine to stay and to become independent. The fact that there were people who were valuing the traditions and holding on to them, keeping them alive for the whole world. So it really says a lot. Um, by the way, folks, if we have any of you down there in listeners, if you are Ukrainian, please do come up and share with us, because I can't tell you anything about Ukrainian Christmas, not being Ukrainian myself, and we would love to hear. I'm glad we have Adam here. Lexicon is going to at some point tell us about her experiences as a member of the Ukrainian diaspora too. Otherwise, I will call on her cold if she doesn't. Um, but anyway, okay. Yeah,
Lexicon, did you ever have to eat the pampushke with onions and cabbage and terrible like fish guts probably and stuff in them from caroling? Did that happen?
I would way
You still
rather eat
recovering?
wonderful onion stuffed pampushki than damn prunes all the time. There'd always be Polish and Ukrainian bakeries. I'm talking about like the 50s. I'm much older than you folks. And all you had in
not me,
and
sweetie.
yeah, yeah. I've heard. But like we were way out in the West End and we weren't in the midst of a Ukrainian community. I mean, there was something and we did go to church, but like in a way we were sort of like isolated even from the isolated Ukrainians, because my parents had left Saskatchewan, and so most of the family stayed there, and so we were the ones who went to Toronto, and not even just Toronto, but further, the really West End. But, but my parents would tell us about it. Christmas Eve was so different from, like, Western Christmas, so there was no Ukrainian real Christmas Day sort of thing in their memory. There was Christmas Eve, and then in Saskatchewan, they would have gone to church. So Christmas Eve, yeah, it was terrific. It seemed we were cooking well, now I think we cook all day, but I think then we seemed to be cooking for days. And, so it was just this huge affair to prepare this meal. We're mostly girls too in the family, so that's what women are doing. It's just like Jewish holidays, women cook and they attacked, we won, let's eat. But anyway, she would tell us about what it was like in Saskatchewan, and she would tell us about and so to have that meal and to have it the way that she had back home with her family, her brothers and sisters, her mom and dad, that was like a connection to them. And I think Christmas Day, there would always be a phone call, imagine, to Saskatchewan, and or I guess to each grandfather and mother. And she would tell us things like you eat when the youngest child would be set to look for the first star. And so I guess that's pretty early these days. And we always did that, and that's a proud thing for whoever's the youngest child. Like, all my family came to my mother's house, and we were 6 kids, and so there's their families. But, she would tell us about how in Saskatchewan, her, father would they would actually put hay under the table, and that was to remember that Jesus was born in a manger. And we knew the meal was Lenten because it commemorated that, the BVM was in labor. I thought that's rather decent of them to commemorate that. It's about the only time I have heard anybody caring about women being in labor. But anyway, the meal, of course, is absolutely enormous. We had 12 dishes pretty well. When my old big sister and I were little, we had it in a pretty traditional style. There's no meat, there's no milk, there's no cream, there's no eggs. You have to make mushroom gravy by browning the flour because you can't use any kind of oil. Well, as we got older, we'd say, "Mother." And so, like you didn't have sour cream with your pirahia and your holopchi.
That's nuts. I'm
That's
sorry.
I know.
I'm
Well,
sorry, baby Jesus and the
as
cows.
we became a season, we would say mother. In fact, nowadays the competition is to find who can find the 30% sour cream in the family, and there's sour cream blind test tastes and so on. And there's always announcements leading up to Christmas as to who has it. Toronto, is a huge Ukrainian center, and there's big Ukrainian dairy and stuff at the Ukrainian bakery that is following the war. A fabulous place. But yeah, those are the big things. But one thing I remember is that on the farm in Saskatchewan, there's a summer kitchen. But so when it's Christmas, like there's so much cooking going on anyway, a certain amount of stuff has to get put away or I don't know, kept, started, put back in the summer kitchen, which is actually a separate building from the house. And that was so that in the summertime, you kept the cooking out of the house to keep the heat. So anyway, my mom was saying that after the meal, you went and put things away. In the summer, some things you put away. Maybe it's like a big freezer in the end of December. Or they celebrated January 6th, Christmas Eve. But she was sent to just walk across the yard to put a half empty bowl of perejea in the summer kitchen, and she went outside. So this is really cold, but you just kind of run across in your boots. And the perejea had been packed into one side of this glass bowl, and it was so cold. I don't know which side she was holding, but the part that was empty froze so rapidly that the bowl just cracked in half and fell on the ground. And she said that everybody said to her, "Oh, yeah, right." And I always sympathized with my poor young mother having to explain, but really it happened. And of course, it would happen. Anyway, that's one of the things I always remember. And
Yeah.
that's anyway, yep, started with the kutia. When you're little, all the kids hate the kutia. As you grow up, you love the kutia.
I want to try rice kutia so bad.
Oh, I don't. Rice.
Well, I'll have to see what they have at
I feel like it'd
Veselka.
be
Maybe they'll
easier to
have both.
cook. It sounds easier to cook from the recipe sections. That's for sure. Maybe it's up Prince's alley. It's like because of
Oh,
ease of
yeah.
ease of
She can
uh,
do the
ease of preparation. You don't have to like soak
She can do the
the wheat berry
Kutya
overnight.
Chronicles next, right?
I don't know, man.
Kucha Crime Chronicles.
Crime Chronicles. You know what? I actually made something today. It's like it's going to end up being sort of like a tuna casserole, or at least that's the intention. We'll see what it ends up being like. But as I was making this, I realized I now have no spices. Seriously, no spices. I don't have garlic powder. I don't have onion powder. None of that stuff. Because when we were doing the borscht stuff, we realized how old all my freaking spices were, and they all got thrown away.
Well, now I know what I can get you for Christmas.
So now I literally have no freaking spices. It was crazy. So I threw some sour cream in it, and I threw some crushed red peppers because I always have the crushed red peppers, and I may throw some Tabasco sauce in it before I eat it.
What about the ranch dressing?
Because I thought about the ranch dressing too. I did think about the ranch dressing. I did think about that.
This is
But
the
it's
Volya
not
Radio
very
Book Club.
hard to
Okay, I'm
keep
dropping James from the
actual onions
speaker panel.
and actual garlic. Like I just keep garlic in a drawer below the stove top, or beside whatever, so it's dark all the time. That's real easy to keep. In fact, I keep it in my spice drawer, and I keep the onions in another cupboard that's closed all the time. You don't need onion powder. Have to have
No,
I do have minced onions. I forgot about them.
pre-minced onions.
The
Dehydrated?
dried
Wow.
minced onions.
Lexicon, the fact that Prince has
Um,
these things is already a step
is
in the right direction. You have
huge
to be happy with it.
progress. I know. I really admire. I heard how she's become a borscht aficionado. That's fabulous. I admire.
Yeah, and then Robin sends me a picture of a freaking can of beets with sour cream on it. She's regressed.
I just had I don't know. I just went crazy somehow. What can I tell you? I thought it was very funny. But
It was
I
very
have
funny.
a mass of beets in my fridge. Tomorrow is Borscht Day. Uh, Anyway, speaking of food, because we're talking about Ukrainian Christmas, so of course it has to do with food. Uh, James, no first. Go ahead, James.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to have my mic open. Finish up. This will wait. It'll save. It's food, but
Go ahead. I'll
okay,
start
okay.
anyway.
Really quickly, then, I just want to say that one of the American traditions around the holidays is our fried onions. They come in a can, so you don't have to do that. And then you mix them in with your, I don't know, green beans, let's say, and you make a casserole out of that. And it's not bad. It's a pretty good stopgap. It's a classic, and it is pretty easy to do. So anyway, American
If
food.
you want to be really traditional, you put a can of cream of mushroom soup on it too.
Absolutely.
It's similar to the casserole.
It goes along with the green jello with the grated carrots in it. Sorry.
That's a bridge too far.
Cream of mushroom soup is like the secret ingredient in so much good stuff.
Freaking American gravy, man.
Exactly.
Scallop potatoes.
Flank
about
steak
it.
wrapped in foil. You throw a can of mushroom soup and just let it sort of cook for like at 325 or I don't know how many hours. That was a staple of my childhood. I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole now. I hate to say.
My ears are so sore.
Poor
Don't
Lexica.
you guys?
This is a
Isn't
fine
there this
dining thing.
movement? Aren't they all the time? Like even on YouTube, they're telling you processed food. No, 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 you will die. You're not supposed to eat anything processed. They're into keto and all this stuff, and it's supposed to. I thought this was a modern thing, but I guess we're all kind of past it, aren't we?
Yes, and I hate to break to you, Lexicon, no matter what you do, you end up dying in the end anyway. So, I
Oh
mean,
my God, really?
I love
oh
you,
my
Robin.
right back at you, Prince. But anyway, speaking of food, folks, Adam, I was going to give you a test, but maybe I'll be nice. I'm sure you know anyway. We're going to talk about the 12 dishes on the Setiveche, Christmas Eve. Um,
Kucha, beans, ujvar, beans, fish, beans,
what about the herring?
beans,
And cholupsi, come on, and
holopsi, varenike, beans.
what are those little vareniki they put in the borscht? What's it? I don't, vushka? Vushka, is that what it's? Yeah, vushka.
Whoa,
Yeah,
vushke?
vushka, like it means ears.
That's
Yeah,
ears.
they're apparent. I don't know, maybe not in your tradition. I know somewhere they look like micro vareniki, and they put them in borscht. So anyway, yeah.
Oh, we went way past it, and it's not the food thing, but I'm gonna, because of what Lexicon was saying about the diaspora and the difference between her Toronto experience versus her mom's Saskatchewan experience. So my experience was closer to the Saskatchewan experience. The straw under the table in some households was filled with um, treats, like sort of like Werther's candies and this kind of Christmas candies that would be so the kids would like, you made a big mess under the table putting the straw in there, and then the kids would make it an even huger mess by digging through it for all the candy. um, and I just wanted to make a comment before we move past it about how the diaspora in North America has been pretty good about keeping these traditions and staying together. I think it is a side effect of the oppression, right? My on my mom's side, my baba was born here. It was it was my great grandmother who came to Canada. So my baba was born in a town outside of Athabasca that was 100% Ukrainian speaking. So she had a Ukrainian accent, and I learned as a teenager that she was born here. And it blew my mind because she did not speak like a Canadian at all. So her grandparents came in the first or her parents came in the first or the second wave, but her husband came after World War II. And so because of the Soviet Union and World War I and II, Bloodlands, Holodomor, all this stuff, there ended up being multiple waves of Ukrainian immigration to North America. And it's one of the aspects that I feel, and I've seen it today, I saw it in my youth, it was like there was this group of people that were Canadianized that sort of were trying to keep up the traditions, but every year we'd have new kids and their parents who all of a sudden were now teaching at Sunday school and stuff like that, and bringing new words like Vareniki and Mashina, because as you heard, when me and Lexicon speak as old Ukrainian prairie folk, we say perohe. And if you say that in Ukraine, that's one of the reasons I feel like they thought I was from Poland, Lex, when I was there, is because it's more like perich is the actually Polish kind of Polonized word for that particular famous dish. So examples like that. I'm rambling now. Let's go to food. I finished with food, right?
They call them pierogies in Poland, so that's it's very similar.
Well, and that's what they're called here it's like known as a Ukrainian food, but in Edmonton, there's restaurants that are called like the Pierogi House Ukrainian food.
Oh yeah, in Veselka on the menu it says pierogies. But they also call them the Varenika there because they now have a lot of Ukrainians who work there. But yeah, it's interesting. I wondered about that. I actually asked them at Veselka, and apparently, before the fall of the Soviet Union. It was very hard for Ukrainians to get out of Ukraine, as it was hard for anybody to get out of the Soviet Union. So Veselka became quite Polishized, and that's where some of the Polish words that they use still came from, because there were a lot of Poles who worked there, and the food became more Polish in the last 10 years or so, and more than that, and since independence, that there were more Ukrainians coming back in, and the food has become more Ukrainian. Yeah, but it was interesting, and there's certainly as you're saying, there's a lot of in Western Ukraine and Poland. There's a lot of cross pollination anyway. Anyway, James, go ahead.
I did you guys say salad? Isn't salad one of the 12 in Prince Heather? The last
bean
salad dressing that I bought, pardon me, was ranch dressing. I just wanted to say that.
You better have beans in your ranch dressing.
Oh my God, it must be catching, Adam. Nick, I have to be sure I never touch a bottle of ranch dressing. I'm afraid it might be infectious. Lexicon.
There's mushroom gravy made with brown gravy, as I mentioned. And there's fruit compote, because nobody had any fresh anything. I mean, you notice everything's made out of potatoes, cabbage, root vegetables, and so yeah, stewed fruit, which was from canned stuff from the summertime, pampushki with damn prunes. Yep, all those things. And I guess they preserved berries in the summertime. That's right. And yeah, anyway, I wondered if we got to 12 dishes. Fish, there should be at least salmon, jellied white fish, and herring. I heard that Polish
Are
people
you
have.
sure you're not Jewish?
My Ukrainian teacher was this young woman from the Carpathians that absolutely loves herring. She said, "I'm sure it's your favorite too." I thought to myself politely, what? But anyway, I think my family has eschewed the herring now. But yes, I mean, who knows who got it from whom? And anyway, in those times, how are you going to keep fish into the winter? So yeah, there was an ice house on the farm, and yes, there were things that were pickled and salted and so on. But anyway, so I heard that in the fish store, the Polish people have told me that they have to have 8 kinds of fish, which I hadn't known. Things you learn in the fish store in Toronto.
That's interesting. I know the Italians, I think, have 12 kinds of fish on Christmas Eve. But Italy being surrounded by water, that's very interesting. By the way, Adam, we're bobbling away here, and we never.
Can we like the Vertep was not next to a stream or an ocean or a sea. Like I feel like this false dividing of the animal kingdoms between those who love Jesus and didn't just isn't fair. The fish did not have a chance to come see their baby king. Okay, come on, guys.
Yeah, well, this is true.
Sorry,
All
I'm just
right.
kidding.
Actually, one of the things we haven't done, Adam, is those, the in crowd here knows what kutya is, but we ought to tell people who are listening what we're talking about. Kutya is something that's made with, well, Adam, I've read the recipe, I haven't had it, so you guys, you and the lexicon can explain this. It has what I consider as one of the Eastern European Jewish staples, poppy seeds. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, it's poppy seeds to put you in the mood for dinner and get your appetite going. No, just joking. So it's a wheat berry porridge, um, and they're incredibly hard to find in North America. The wheat berries, but you can find them and you soak them for overnight, and then you boil them. Or if you're a really dumb young man trying to cook Ukrainian dinner for the first time by yourself, you just boil them for like 3 days, and you think that's how you do it, and you end up with good kutya. And honey is an important part, and the poppy seeds, of course. And I think the one that we did was very minimalist, but like, of course, Ukrainians have like a million different versions. Um, I'm
I
torn
heard that
now whether I should go to Lexicon or Edward, because Edward had his hand up first, but I think Lexicon's going to talk about kutya. Is that okay if you wait a minute, Edward?
well,
Oh my
he
God.
hasn't
Maybe
objected.
Edward
So
was
hang
going to
on.
talk about kutya.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, okay, let's
Well,
go ahead.
just to add that almonds, whole almonds, you used to blanch them back then, but we don't do that now. And that's the one time we bought, well, one of the few times you buy sultana raisins, so that's the most lovely ones. And more recent, some people like to chop in some dried apricots, sort of more getting more and more fancy.
Mm,
But anyway, I think that's all. Poppy seed's the
Good.
best.
Starting to sound good. And I
Oh, I
heard that,
forgot to say
yeah.
that if you try to find berries, I don't know where there's berries, wheat, soft wheat, not hard wheat. If you get hard wheat, it'll basically never get soft. And if you get soft wheat, it will. Doesn't take that long. And if you have a pressure cooker, it can be done more quickly.
I also heard that kutya it's an important symbolic dish that I know of somebody who was telling me that their father would not allow children to touch anything else on the table until they'd eaten their portion of kutya as sort of like
Oh, 100%.
Exactly. And all the children hate it. And they nearly die. And some of them Ralph and stuff. And they're allowed to
I
have
don't
a teaspoon.
I don't know why. It's so dang good. I always
It
okay.
liked it
is
as a
now.
kid.
Do you
Yeah.
remember being 6?
Yes, and I liked it. I still to
You
this
were a
day don't
weird
eat the
little
head cheese,
kid.
but
It's always been a little odd, yeah. Let's go over to poor
it's
Edward
sweet.
and then
It's like
because
porridge.
yes.
Go, sorry, Edward. Go ahead.
So we eat slightly different food because obviously we had a Hanukkah. Well, this year they coincide, but the foods that we eat or used to eat would be chopped liver on lettuce. Basically, it's onions, liver, and other things seasoned in it. We also did kreplach as well as fried kreplach. And then things we avoided were gefilte fish and whitefish.
And kreplach is sort of like the Jewish answer to vareniki, right?
Did he just say gefilte fish? I think Aria is
Yes.
going to be requesting in about 30 seconds.
Well, I must say, in defense of gefilte fish, there's gefilte fish and gefilte fish. The stuff that they sell in jars, my cat would turn its nose up. That stuff is absolutely vile. If you could, I have made it from scratch, from getting ground fish from the fish store, and it actually can be quite tasty. But yeah, but it's not a thing kids go for. Edward, go ahead.
Well, one of the weird things about you were asking about kreplach and what it's made from. It's made from beef today. Let's just say it was made from something else before that.
The Ukrainian national meat, I assume you're talking about.
I think it was lung.
Oh, interesting. That I didn't know. Okay. One of the things that's fascinating me, I mean, Adam and I've talked about this before, is when you get into, it coming from either the Ukrainian side or the Jewish side, when you start talking to each other, you find out that an awful lot of the foods may have slightly different names, but it's all the same stuff. And it's all like potatoes and onions. Like we have, for Hanukkah, we eat something we call latkes, it's grated potatoes and onions and then fried, which is what, deruni? Is that what it's called in Ukrainian? Um, anyway, it's the exact same thing.
Well, it's usually peanut oil or olive oil.
Well, I don't know. I use whatever I've got. But yeah. Anyway, but as you know, as you're saying, well, one of the things I find interesting and about both Eastern European Jewish food and Ukrainian food is in both cases a lot of it was making the best out of really, as they call it, slim pickings. When you have nothing but cabbage, beans, onions, and what else? Cabbage, beans, onions. That just about covers it, doesn't it? And mushrooms, if you happen to live in the Carpathians, go get it. You have to be pretty inventive to make things taste good. And in both traditions, an awful lot of good things are made with those ingredients. So it's a testament to resiliency in that case too. Now, did we cover everything that goes into the 12 dishes here? We have. Let me see. We have kutya, borscht with bushkane. We have mushroom soup. We have holubtsi and vareniki. Yeah, we've got fish and stewed cabbage. Okay, tell me about that, guys. Tushkovani kapustu. What is that?
Usually served with beans.
Okay, okay, everything's better with beans. All right. Anyway, and what I wanted to we haven't touched on yet. I found this interesting is between the Eastern and Western Church, the period of time leading up to Christmas is handled quite differently. In the Western Church is Advent, which is basically you start getting happy a month ahead of time, and you get happier and happier and happier, and then you get to Christmas. In the Eastern tradition, it's a fast, the St. Philip's fast, which is, as Adam and Lex and I were talking about, was a time traditionally that no meat or dairy was eaten, and it was a fast similar to what Western Catholics do in Lent, coming up to Easter. It's a very different approach to things, which for whatever, it's interesting. I know I had a Ukrainian friend when I was in law school, and she said that part of the reason she didn't have a weight problem is because she had two large periods of time during the year when she had to eat a vegan diet, being Ukrainian Orthodox. So I thought that was sort of interesting. Anyway, over to you, Lexicon.
So you mean that the Orthodox are fasting in the Advent period the whole time? Like we were Greek Catholics, and it was just that the Christmas Eve meal was a Lenten meal.
Oh, interesting. Okay, this as I understand it, it was, in fact, the way Hrytsak writes it. He writes it as though the fast is a 4-week abstention from meat and dairy. Interesting. That may be only the
Oh,
Orthodox
that's
Church. Yeah.
terrible. Oh my goodness. I'm so lucky.
You see that? Good to be Greek Catholic, right? Prince.
Yeah, I'm not at my computer, as you may be able to tell. Is Juniper would like some attention. The it's that 4-week fast, and I believe Gina has written about it, and it's a really interesting fast to me. Just it's meat and dairy, to stay away from that stuff, and it is for an extended period of time, and I just think it's a very interesting one, and yeah, and I believe that the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church does that. So yeah, and probably the Orthodox Church.
Thank you. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and one of the things is too, what actually this made, lexicon, an interesting question that comes up a lot. I wonder if there's a difference between in the diaspora and what goes on in Ukraine, because there certainly are differences. But it's sort of an interesting thing too. You think about it, how poor this area of the world has been for so long. Having 2 periods of time when you didn't have the pressure to come up with milk and with dairy products and meat products would give you a chance to have them stored up for the rest of the year. So it's sort of interesting that way. And as you were saying, it's part and parcel of that, of the Ukrainian and Jewish approach of, they tried to kill us, we won, let's eat. fits both of our communities better than we'd like it to, I think, sometimes. Yeah, lexicon.
Was Adam wanting to say something?
Is borscht in the list in the book?
Of
Oh, right.
course, of course.
Right after the
And I
kutya.
found the word I was looking for beans, fasolya or
Yeah,
kvasolya.
yeah, kosolia, yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think this book is getting a C- for me because of but he's just not mentioning the fasolya enough.
No, yes. Well, I also am upset with it because an awful lot of things he doesn't give you the Ukrainian. He only gives you a translation, which, I mean, he should have the translation, but to let people know what the original word is, how could that hurt?
Also, derune or latki are the best. They're so good. Go ahead, lexicon.
I was just thinking about, because my people are all from the farm, and to me, I think they cast a withering eye on fasting. I mean, it's okay to like, anyway, how long was this labor anyway? But I think when people are like grubbing their existence out of the earth, like poor people, I don't think they're that keen on fasting. And so it's okay. I mean, like, I remember that we used to have fish on Friday, but that's not fasting. That's a good thing. We should have fish more often, which we do now. So, and I remember that we also cast a rather jaundiced eye on things that priests thought and rich people thought. And I think fasting checked off both those boxes. Actually, peasants are a very skeptical lot and have a jaundiced eye about a number of things. But I guess if you were so, I mean, you're quite right. It could have been a good reason not to have pressure to produce these things. Frankly, I think that they thought that if poor people aren't eating meat, it's because they don't have any. Nobody's doing it on purpose. Anyway, I suppose that some of that attitude must have rubbed off on me.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's true. In some ways, restrictions on what you eat are a luxury that people have in places where you have enough to eat to start with. Yeah, it makes sense. Um, Adam,
And we
yes.
also haven't mentioned, and this is going to make Prince very mad, the poppy seed cake, which is apparently Hungarian in
The
origin.
Ukrainian poppy seed cake, yes. Oh, it's Ukrainian and Jewish. I mean, the mudger, they stole it from us, right?
It's freaking Hungarian.
Ah, there she is.
I'm making a sandwich.
Sandwich. Okay. Anyway.
It's like Wonder Bread and ranch dressing.
What's really, really freaking funny is one of the last times I bought bread, and they were out of one of the breads that I get, and the cheapest replacement was Wonder Bread. And so, yes, I do have Wonder Bread, but not ranch dressing.
They still make Wonder Bread? Oh my God, I don't believe it. Oh, jeez. The wonder is that people eat that stuff. I mean, anyway. Okay. So,
It's a cost saving measure for me.
Okay.
I get a really good whole grain bread and a really crappy white bread. That way.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. All right. Anyway, this is not turning out at all the way I expected, Adam, but we're having a good time, so what do I care? I want to move on to the next section, which is songs and carols, since we actually talked about some of that already. And one of the things that Hrytsak points out, which I think is important, and who was I talking about? Oh, my friend Stas, about why it was that Ukraine has not gone the way of Belarus, where the traditional culture is pretty much totally wiped out. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that the western part of Ukraine only came under the Soviet occupation after World War II. So it was bad. It was bad during that time, but it was only a period of what 40, 55, 60, what well whatever 40, 50 years. Whereas in the East it was much longer. So and before 45, um, a lot of Ukrainian history, a lot of Ukrainian literature and everything, Ukrainian culture, uh, took place in the Polish, what was either part of Poland or part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the western part of Ukraine, and he's pointing out that the tradition of caroling, which was severely repressed under the Soviets. I mean, even in the western part during the Soviet times, people could get arrested for going out and caroling because this was an illicit expression of Ukrainian nationalism. It was Banderite. They said that it was Banderite to be singing Christmas carols. This is an expression of Ukrainian pride and Ukrainian nationalism, which gives you a picture of how frightened the Soviets were of all of this. But anyway, as he says, and I was hoping one of my Ukrainian friends was going to be up, but the poor guy, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, so I don't blame him for not being here because he grew up in the West and had spent a lot of time in a village. And he was told me about the caroling and stuff, where they're carrying the vertep around with them and doing nativity plays and going from house to house and getting food and vodka and leaving 3 hours later and doing it again. It still goes on in the Carpathians. Um, anyway, so and in that vein, I want to play a song now, which Adam will recognize as one of the ones he was talking about. But this was collected. This was collected in the west of Ukraine. This is an actual Ukrainian peasant singing it, not some prettified thing. But I think it's nice to listen.
Добрий вечір тобі, пане господарю, радуйся, ой, радуйся, земле, син Божий, народився, застеляйте столи, та все килимами, радуйся, ой, радуйся, земле, син Божий, народився, ладіть паляниці з ярої пшениці, радуйся, ой, радуйся, земле, син Божий, народився, бо прийдуть до тебе три праздники в гості, радуйся, ой, радуйся, земле, син Божий, народився, а перший же праздник, то різдво Христове, радуйся, ой, радуйся, земле, син Божий, народився, а другий же праздник Василя Святого, радуйся, ой, радуйся, земле, син Божий, народився, а третій же праздник святе водохреща, радуйся, ой, радуйся, земле, син Божий, народився.
Aren't they wonderful? I just love that. That's a very typical vocal production quality of Eastern European, traditional singers generally. And also I was thinking, Adam, as we're listening to it, it also shows they had a lot of time on their hands because the song goes through a whole bunch of different holidays that they're going to celebrate and lists them all out. Um, but anyway, and Adam knows that song. That is, I think that's probably one of the most well known of all the Christmas songs, right?
It is, and so popular that the Soviets appropriated it, and instead of Son of God is born, they rejoice that Lenin was born. Those
Excuse me while I throw up.
absolute, yeah. Oh, they're the worst. Oh, there's modern equivalents,
But
I
you know what?
suppose.
Lenin is dead and Ukraine is still there. So take that.
So those hands popped up in quick succession. So
Yeah,
I'm
I
gonna
have
let
no
them
idea
fight it
who's.
out.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. James Lexicon, you can do an arm wrestle.
Christmas
I thought I
style.
heard the word. I thought I heard the word Narodny or like Narodna in there. Is that true? Is that what I heard?
Um,
Yeah, narodился.
oh, Narodivsia, that means was born. It's
Okay,
Which
thank
related.
is
you.
No, it's
related to the
related.
word
Yeah,
narod.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, Rodevsia. Yeah, because Narod it has to do with being born in a certain place also. So good job. See, look at that, Adam. James is no, seriously, James. You're picking up a lot now. It's your work is paying off.
Well, you know what I'm finding out is there's just so many connections between English and Ukrainian. It isn't that hard to sometimes sound things out. When you hear it, it's going to be a lot clearer. So, but I love how some of it is also a lot like Latin, and so there's just and some of it's a lot like French. So there's well, it gets mixed up honestly, but I love it. It's been a lot of fun learning these words that I know.
Yeah, you're getting hooked. Exactly what happened to me, James. You fall in love with Ukrainian and you'll do anything. Lexicon.
Yeah, and there's a lot of German words. Ukrainian is so European, and so as well as having lots of Turkish words, and those I don't recognize, but like any European language or like languages anywhere, yep, lots and lots of borrowings
Kozak
and
is a
loans.
Turkic word.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
particularly Ukraine because it was the highway between Asia and Europe. So there are always people
yep,
breezing through, sometimes with armies, but the language and culture and food and everything was influenced by that.
gates of Europe. I just heard somebody today say, imagine a man-made famine was created on the land, on the richest land on earth. I just never heard anybody say it that way. Anyway, that's fantastic singing. I love that. So that's I often talk about this when we get a person on who has knowledge. The throne voice or the white voice, different phrases they have. That's so Ukrainian. It's not absent, I guess, from other, I don't know really, but from other Slavic music, but it's most characteristic of Ukrainian. And I've yet to find somebody who can explain it entirely to me because it feels to me like the harmony is also like they're not using a full. You guys were talking about scales earlier today. I'm just wondering if the scale is any different or more limited or something or particular. But just like I hear one bar of that and it just takes me home. It's just, it takes me back to Saskatchewan, that because I sometimes was able to be there, and the churches on the farms, wow, those women and the men too, like the 2 the 2 halves of the voices in the church, they were phenomenal the way the people made music. Like, you see a movie and it's got some sort of village singing, English hymns, and they often, especially the more realistic ones, it's a bit, it's not tuneless, a lot of off-key stuff is characteristic of, like, a congregation all singing, but these Ukrainian people, just every little country church, they were belting it out in the most fabulous soprano and bass harmonies, or, the women's voices and the men's voices, they had their own parts, they just seem to be born or they learned it as children, and, yeah, and it's fantastic, and, it is so evocative to me.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks, Lexico. That is something I noticed when I was in Ukraine. I don't think I ever heard a Ukrainian sing off pitch. It's like I don't know whether the education is different or what, but that sort of thing. It's the whole country is musical. It's all. I mean, everything. It's like I said, the language is musical. The people you hear music on the street all the time, and people sing beautifully. Yeah, we're going to hear another song in a minute, but first, Prince, go ahead.
Yeah, when I get back to my computer, maybe I'll tweet this out. Um, a guy that I know, and I'll find this throughout the stuff that he posts. It's a guy. Oh, stop it, Juniper. A guy from the church that I grew up in, and he somehow has been able to collect a bunch of foreign language singing from the church that I grew up in. And he posted a couple of weeks ago a Ukrainian one, which is absolutely amazing. But he's also got Serbian, he's got Hungarian, he's got Slovak, and I'm trying to remember which other I don't know if he has any Romanian. But what I can tell you is that it doesn't matter the language really. It sounds very, very much the same. And it's the 4-part harmony. And quite honestly, it's that 4-part harmony that I grew up with. I actually there's on his page there is a recording from 1975, I believe it is, that I absolutely love to listen to. And it's in English just because it reminds me of my time in church growing up. But the sound is all very, very, very similar. So Lexicon, you may want to listen to that one in Ukrainian, especially. More than one of you might want to.
Yeah, what's really wild too is Bulgarian folk music. They actually sing a half tone apart, which we would think of as not being in tune, but it's actually intentional. It's very interesting, and very interesting. I think they use like a 5/4, meter in some of it. It's a very, very, very out there and interesting. Anyway, I'm going to play another song now. This is from our friends in Saskatoon again because I just love them. And Adam Lexicon. If you know what the name of this song is, do tell me because I love it, but I can't figure out what the name is. So here we go. I would imagine the name of it is Christos Narodivся. Now that I
Oh,
listen
you
to it a
beat
little
me
bit
to it.
closer.
Христос народився. Нам народився. A lot of that.
which means Christ is born. But yeah. Okay. Isn't it? I just love that though.
And
And
nam narodился, born to us. He is born to
yes,
us.
yeah. Yeah. It's Ukrainian Christmas carols by the Nadivka Choir of Saskatoon. Take a look at it because what they're doing here is they're standing in someone's living room singing. This is actually they're doing they're doing the traditional caroling. So they just showed up at somebody's house and we're singing this. It's absolutely beautiful. A couple little kids there. One of them is using the has the what is that called?
The vertep.
Yeah, no. Why can't I think of it? You know the that percussion instrument that you hear in the background, but whatever.
Tambourine.
No, there. Yeah, that's right. It must be a tambourine. Yeah, no vertep in evidence though. But I guess was that something you guys did?
I think one year we made one because there was like time in Saturday school before a teacher was bored or something. But yeah, usually we didn't have one. There was one kicking around the hall, though. I remember. It was always brought out for the concerts, but the individual groups of teenagers were not allowed to leave with it, I think. Probably smart.
That's probably smart. Then in that thing from Ukraine that I put up in the nest that has photographs of it's as mostly I think in the Carpathians. They show some people with very elaborate verteps that they're walking around with. It's basically a box that has the scenes from the nativity story, and it's used as they tell the story. Or sometimes people dress up. You'll also see in that photo spread people dressed up as the different characters. One of the things I thought was sort of cute. I think Hrytsak points out, I've read other places too, is that the stories were localized. So you get a lot of Hungarians in the nativity story, Prince, and gypsies and Jews, and I don't mean of the Israeli variety. I mean Jews with the long sidewalks and that kind of thing. And over time, the Herod, the character of Herod, was turned into either Stalin or Yanukovych, which I loved, or Putin. I thought was sort of interesting. So it reminds me of the story I read once about what did Mary do while she was waiting for Jesus to be born? Well, obviously she spent her time making pisanka, which of course shows us with that absolutely conclusively that Jesus was actually Ukrainian. I thought that was cute. Back to you, Adam.
Back to the onion buns. No. What's okay? So there's the vertep, but there was also, and you see it, and I don't know, shameful diasporite, but we had like a staff with the Jesus, the guiding star that showed up on Christmas Eve that led the three wise men. And so lots of photos and illustrations of Ukrainian carolers also had that. There's a name for it. Where's Lida to correct me on that?
It's interesting because I read someplace somebody said that that's what vertep means, but I also have read what you had told me. The vertep means the manger. So yeah, I don't know. There's a picture of these kids in the song I just played for you. That's what they're holding in their front. It looks like it was made in preschool. It's very cute though, but it is a star. Yeah.
Yeah, so we had that thing around. I'm not going to say that we didn't hit each other with it in the back of the minivan, but we were kids and we were getting
Kids
fed
are kids.
shots.
All right. Okay. Now I have one thing I just have to inflict on you, and I'm not going to play the whole thing because I just think it's funny. But one of the things that I love, I mean, I love contemporary Ukrainian pop and rock music, and one of the things about a living tradition is it doesn't always only look backwards. It also looks forward. And I have a Ukrainian friend who would be absolutely aghast that I'm playing this because he just thinks it's this too popish for words, but I just love it because it's an example of this tradition being being alive in modern pop music. So I'll just play a little bit of it.
Сніг за вікном, темно на дворі, час для мрій та казкових історій, сяють святкові вогні. Ти виглядаєш мене у вікні, забувши про втому, я кваплюсь додому, де гріє сімейне тепло. Зустріти щасливе різдво, різдво. Щипає мороз, щічки дитячі, терпкий аромат, напоїв гарячих, лунають різдвяні пісні, грають у сніжки дорослі й малі. Це магія свята, літають санчата, і кожен плекає добро. На порозі щасливе різдво. Нехай замете негаразди, і щастя примножаться всі. Сімейне різдво, хіба є щось краще, усі за столом, а потім мандарини, пледи, кіно. Це наше щасливе різдво.
I didn't know Josh Groban did a Ukrainian Christmas album. No. Where's Robin? I was just kidding.
I had the mic off. I'm babbling on. No, I love this guy. It's Arkady Boychuk, and he's from Lviv, so it's just part of it. He's got a wonderful song. I may send it to you, Adam, later. It's about it snowing in Lviv. It's really cute. He does kids music. He does, other for adults also. But yeah, I mean that's what I like about this is you can imagine this, this playing, and it's like you have to have cheesy Christmas songs if you're a modern Western country, right? If Christmas is still alive, you can almost imagine this being played in a in a shopping mall. Although unfortunately in Ukraine apparently this isn't a thing to have Christmas music piped in the shopping mall. But I don't care. I love Arkady Bochuk. I just think he's wonderful. Anyway, so that was that. Who's next, Adam? I'm not sure.
Думаю, що було James, тоді Prince.
Thank you. And for the Ukrainian too, I understand 2 words at least. Anyway, no, just wanted to quickly say the same thing you said, Robin, that it just really fit in with all of the music that got created. I think I want to say post-war period mostly, and the things that got attached to children's TV shows, like, special for the holidays, like, I don't know, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and stuff like that. Kind of schlocky, but, you get attached to these things.
Yeah, exactly. They're fun. It's not deep. It's just fun. Prince.
Okay, up in the nest, I put the Ukrainian hymns. I don't know if I could play any of it's not Christmas related. I don't know if I can change my settings on my headset so you might be able to hear it. Let me see if this helps. Can you hear it at all?
Yeah.
Maybe not in the best song. Hang on.
Well, it sounded good.
Yeah. All right. So that's what I grew up with. In English, in Hungarian, in German, in Slavic, in Serbian, and I can't remember what other languages. Romanian. That's what church sounded like for me. But that one's I've never heard the Ukrainian one. So when that got posted a couple of weeks ago, I thought it was majorly cool. So I just thought since we were talking about that style of singing that a cappella 4-part harmony, I would share that. And I thought, Lexicon, you may enjoy listening to it. There's the Ukrainian one. There's also Serbian ones, I know. I was listening to a Serbian one last week, and I enjoy all of them just the same, whether I understand it or not, because I know those songs in English.
Yeah, that one I know in English. I don't know where I know it from, but Hail to the Lord, the Almighty, the King of creation. Right, yeah.
Creation.
Yeah, exactly. It's some
Yeah,
beautiful hymns. Yeah.
yeah. So there's a yeah, but that's what I grew up with. So anyway, that's what church sounds like to me, or it should sound like.
Yeah, yeah. I think, and this, the Eastern Church still keeps this. The Eastern Church hasn't gone through the folk mass abomination and stuff like that. They've kept there's a certain amount of grandeur that ought to go along with worshiping God, in my opinion. And it shouldn't be too pedestrian, but that's just me.
I agree. So anyway,
Okay. All right. All right, let's see. Where are we up to here, Adam? We've talked about Vertep, so I think we've oh, I wanted to mention he doesn't mention here, but we wanted to mention Shedri Vecher, which is I got very confused. I had to get my one of my teachers to explain this to me, because there is Sviate Vecher and there's Shedri Vecher. And I've had explained to me differently that one is one and the other, but apparently Shedri Vecher takes place actually, I guess, New Year's Eve now, on the new calendar. Does that ring a bell with anybody here?
Epiphany. Yes, it
Okay.
is. And I get it mixed up with Malanka, which I think is more of a secular thing, but I don't know if it's later. And then there's also Jordan.
That
Is
that
that
one's later.
Epiphany? That's Epiphany.
No, that's when the crazy people go swimming in the river in the middle of January.
Yeah, because it's the baptism of
John the Baptist.
John the Baptist.
Yeah, which
And then my
shows which
sister
which shows that they
was
didn't.
actually born in early January, and my mom named her Jordana for
Ah,
that reason.
interesting. I was going to say it's one
Yep.
of the things that tells you that these people were not Ukrainian, because being baptized in a river in January in Ukraine doesn't sound like a very good idea.
Yeah, yeah. We didn't have palm trees either, which is a feature.
We had pussy
Which
willows.
people use.
Is
Yeah.
that what you used on Ash Wednesday?
Yep.
Or I mean on Palm Sunday, yeah. Are you guys gonna I don't wanna stop music if this is a whole section on music. I wanted to ask something about the greeting at Christmas time.
No,
Oh,
no,
I was
let's
going to
go
bring
ahead.
that up
Yeah,
too.
yeah, good. Yeah, that's a good. Go
Well,
ahead.
I'm seeing them saying Radivsha. So some people, we said Христос рождается, and you say it for 40 days. I always used to wonder how long they keep saying this. So Christ is born, and then you say glory, let us
Slavimo Yeho.
let us glorify him. So, but so we said Christos рождается. I was just Googling, and they say Christos Radivsha, like the song. Well, you weren't there at Christmas. What did you guys say, Adam?
Yeah, Rождается before, and then Christos Narodился starting on Christmas Eve.
Oh,
How I
Oh,
know it.
right.
interesting.
Imperfective and all that. Perfective.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, you see, this grammar actually means something.
Христос народился. Славите Його. You know, us Ukrainian, Jewish, gay, Christmas loving Nazis sure love praising Jesus a lot. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, the church is stuffed full of them. Anyway, no, I just wanted to celebrate kind of Christmas now, Christmas future, and just wanted to say NAFO Christmas to you. A happy NAFO Christmas to all of you. And the post I put in the nest, I love this one. It was, the three wise fellas bringing gifts of CIA gold, bonkincense, and high myrrhs, myrrh. Anyway, I love it. I love the picture. It's great. Yeah, Christmas does these kind of things to people. We want to adapt everything to fit it, and it works. And you can, yeah. Anyways, I'm sure that this will be a Christmas card someday that you can find at card stores near you.
I love it. I love NAFO. You,
So
yeah, good.
with Shedri Vachir in Malanka, and I remember even at Christmas sort of concerts, and I wanted to know if Lexicon experienced this in the Toronto kind of her Ukrainian youth. But we did lots of skits. Like they made the kids do all these like little playlets. And I remember 2 or 3 years in a row, I got to be the chort who kidnapped Malanka, and that was just the best because they're like, "Hey, you're 14. You're gonna be at this dinner in front of all your friends and family, and you're gonna be dressed in a devil costume, and you're gonna run around." And I would grab people's drinks and take sips of their drinks and like put my finger in a bowl of borscht and like just be like a straight up chort. And it was a new part of the show that I invented, and it kind of like became like a thing because before, the other shite who weren't the kids who weren't as gregarious as me didn't. They just like did the laughing, but I came in from the back and like creeped in and sat at tables and like I knocked over like an already empty drink that I saw was empty, but yeah, they let me be the chort and I got to do it. And but I don't know Lexicon. Like it seemed like they were always like, okay, kids, sing songs and put on plays. Get at it. We're gonna drink and watch you.
Yeah, no, we were not as integrated with the church that was around there. And so yeah, I mean, Easter, we spent a lot more time at the church, but Christmas, it just seemed to be our family and phoning home to Saskatchewan. Don't know why. Yeah.
It was Ivana Kopala too. So there was just all these opportunities to do little plays, make the
So,
kids do little plays.
so were you doing these plays in Ukrainian?
Yeah. So I
That's
think
wow. That's wild.
this was at Soom Hall. This was like my Banderite nationalist Ukrainian gay Jewish Nazi battle mosquito youth group. And that I was grew up and radicalized in. And everyone I know now is like Plast, and like you see Plast everywhere, and they were sort of like it was Soom and Plast, but I feel like I don't know, even Ukraine, I don't know what the deal is with Zoom, but like I got some like eyebrows and then I just didn't say it anymore. Anyways, I don't know what that's about.
I,
Maybe we were too Banderite or too
interesting.
Melnikite. I don't know, but it was like some sort of schism within the UPA community.
That's interesting. I'd never even heard of it. That's interesting. Yeah.
I
Huh.
don't even know. But or was it Catholic versus Orthodox? Maybe I think that
Oh,
was
that
it.
could be it. That could be it. Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, always with the skits. I don't know what my point was. There's lots of
Well,
fun stuff though.
your point
Random
is, I mean,
memories that this I
yeah.
haven't thought about this stuff, and here I am talking with all these people that just having these random memories of weird Christmas experiences. But we'd always have Malanka about on the first weekend of January, like the second weekend of January, so sort of like after Orthodox Christmas, and there's here in Edmonton. I was just looking it up this week down when I went down my Malanka rabbit hole earlier today, and there's several Malanka parties. In mid-January, there's a Malanka in the mountains that I'm thinking about going to on January 18th, like at some resort in Jasper, Alberta. Oh my gosh, sounds like fun. Sounds expensive.
So,
Jasper.
Malanka, I read, is in honor of a memory of Saint Melania of Rome. Is this what is Malanka really? I know that it's a date on the calendar, but I'm not really sure what the point of it is.
So it's very pagan, and lots of it in the Carpathians. Like you can tell how pagan and crazy it is. So I think maybe the Melania of Rome idea got smashed over it, but basically Malanka is the daughter of in the pagan, like how I read it in the pre-Christian thing, that how they kind of appropriated a lot of those pagan traditions into early Christianity, but so Milanka was the daughter of spring, and the Chort kidnapped her. That was me. So that there would be no spring and no spring harvest.
Oh, interesting. That makes more
But she had
sense.
a young lover whose name consequentially was usually Ivan, and he would rescue her and fight the Chort. So you always as part of the Chort part in the play, you also got to have a wicked death scene. So I was in my element.
Ah, interesting. What is that? The what is the name of that movie? Teeny Zub, what is it? Of Forgotten Memories of Forgotten. No, what is it? Something of Forgotten Ancestors. That movie. The main characters are Ivan and Marichka. I wonder, and it's a similar kind of story, I think. I wonder if that was. Do you know that? You know the movie I'm talking about, right?
I do. I've never seen it, but yeah, that sounds very. It's a common theme, I think, of because there's lots of dragons or monsters kidnapping young princesses, being saved by strong tanners of leather.
Yes, exactly. Although I must say, one of the things that I notice with a lot of these stories, usually the kind of fairy tales I'm used to, everything comes out good in the end. Everybody's happy. Everybody lives happily ever after. Ukrainian folk tales often don't turn out that way. I mean, that story about Ivan and Marichka, I think everybody ends up dead in the end. So it's probably more realistic in terms of the way life actually is, but it's much darker than the kind of things I'm used to.
Well, yeah, but we're also used to like Disneyized versions of it. Like the Grims are always pretty grim, but
Yeah, that is true. That is
the
true.
kids never got out of the witch's oven. Jesus, what? Sorry. Oh, now I'm sorry, baby. Sweet baby. Sorry, buddy.
Shame on you. You know what? Shall we?
It's his birthday. I'm
Yes,
swearing in his
that's
name.
right. Shall we play one more song? This is when you.
Harazd.
Okay, this is when you'll recognize. Hang on a second. Actually, I have to turn the sound off a minute because they always have some stupid ad. I hate YouTube. No, well, I don't. I mean, because at least we can hear this. Anyway, now let me just get to the right place. 1328. You'll recognize this. So this is that same group, and they're standing in somebody's living room caroling. And here we go. Anyway, that's like I figured we have to play that. It's such a beautiful thing. And these are just this is not a professional choir. These are just people who get together and sing beautifully. As we were saying, uh, it seems to be that being musical is a Ukrainian characteristic.
Well, are you sure it's not a Hungarian characteristic?
I mean, with all due respect to Hungarians, and I must say, when I was my bout in graduate school in musicology, I spent a lot of time uh, studying Hungarian folk songs and their relationship to the Hungarian language, and particularly with relation to Béla Bartók, who was a 20th century composer, and it was really fascinating. I can't. That'd be interesting. I mean, at some point, I'd like to look into that same thing in Ukrainian. In Hungarian, the rhythm of the language is such. It's very unusual, and it is. You see the way the folk music develops is very much as is related to how the language is the rhythm of the language, and Bela Bartok took a lot of that over in his composition. So whatever, I'm probably boring you to tears, but it was very interesting, and it's a very interesting and unusual language, Ukrainian. I mean, Hungarian, Ukrainian too, but Hungarian is what I meant.
Vortok was always fun to play.
Yeah, I microcosmos. When my piano teacher I went through all, I think, 6 books of microcosmos, and Bartok was a pianist himself, and he wrote wonderful piano music. And you may be talking about his concert music, which was also
Exactly.
wonderful. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember where he's buried. He might have been one of the monasteries that we went to. Did he play organ too? I think so.
I think he died and was buried in the United States, actually, because he was one of those
Okay.
people who had to leave Hungary with those damn Russians. Excuse me. It was, being a musician, being a creative person under the Soviets was not a growth industry.
Okay, I found a quick description of
Go for it.
Molanka. The ritual is derived from a Christianized folktale of pagan origins. The story is based on the daughter of the creator god Praboch, whose 4 sons included Velez, the Chort, Yarila, who identified with Saint George, Rai, who identified with Saint John, and Lado or Mir, peace. His daughter Lada was Mother Earth, who had 2 children, a son called the Moon and a daughter called Spring May, later referred to as Molanka because she was loving. Ukrainian Mela. Oh, okay. In the version of the myth of Hades and Persephone, Molanka's uncle, the devil, desired her presence in the underworld and abducted her one day when the moon was hunting. When Molanka was gone, the earth lacked the rebirth of spring, and once she was released from the vice of the devil, flowers began to bloom and greenery spread around the world. So Molanka, darkest day of the year, not the darkest, but the middle of winter, as it were, and it's a spring thing again.
Interesting. I think my brother just sent me something. I think today is actually the shortest day of the year, so it's very, very apropos. It's interesting.
We notice up here.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
listen, I know somebody who lives.
It was dark at 4:00 yesterday p.m.
Yeah, no, I know somebody who lives in the Shetland Islands, and they, it's sometime after 3 this time of year. I mean, I don't know how people. I mean, I would not. I don't do well with lack of sunlight altogether. I don't know how people manage. I mean, there are areas in northern Norway where I think it's several months that are night, in the middle of the winter. I don't know how people survive.
So you eat carrots.
Oh, okay.
Cross country ski and get as much sun as you can.
Yeah.
We get lots of sun in the winter up here, but yes, it is a different thing. But that's not about Ukraine or Christmas.
No. Okay, we've got 12 minutes left. And we have James has his hand up. Good. Go ahead, James.
According to a couple of historians of note, Christmas was moved to the time it is the day it is because of the desire to be sort of in sync, with the sun and its cycle, and they wanted it after because it was when the sun was increasing, and so it was probably one of the first days you could maybe recognize just with your eyes that this day was longer than the last one, and so. I think that idea about coming out of darkness is so powerful, and it's part of many winter holidays, and I do think it's important for us to kind of and really truly, as I get older, I appreciate it more and more. It's like, yes, I am so happy the sun is coming up, but come this summer I'll be bitching about the heat, but still, for right now it's like, oh yeah, bring on spring. And it is a it really resonates, I think, with every human, because even every bit of nature really kind of celebrates spring. And so this is the start of that this season that it's getting brighter, and I'd like to think that is about Ukraine as well.
Yeah, I mean that definitely is true. I mean, Hanukkah is this time of year too, and we start every day lighting one more candle to, it's symbolic. It definitely is bringing light into the world, or whatever. It's something. It's interesting how people cope with adversity, and make it. Make it livable. People are focusing on looking to the future. In this case, when there will be more sunlight, or the days will be longer. Lexicon.
There's a strong movement in Ukraine. There's this shop you can find. It's a restaurant and bookstore and stuff called Kult, and it's the pagan sort of revival types. And I so you can get very nice reproductions of those very, very ancient, the very first sculptures, which are that voluptuous body of a woman, or the torso mainly, and kinds of little old little cows and birds and things made of clay. And anyway, lots of books. But I oh yeah, I was reading, yeah, when trying to read in Ukrainian. On LinQ, I guess they have, well, around the time of Ivana Kupala, which is held, that's the 24th of June, but that was a pagan festival that was taken over by the church. And they talked in that presentation about so that's a festival that takes place also to celebrate the rebirth of the sun. Well, I guess that's the solstice. Yeah, obviously, would be about the summer solstice. But you just see this huge raging war between pagan holidays and the church, and the attempts to uh, re- recuperate. That's not recover, grab them, get them back, get them for the church. And but the stories that you
Assimilate.
yeah, um,
They
capture.
repurpose almost. They took the same thing and made them Christian. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, but there's so much of the holiday that, like, it's become really popular in Ukraine, that holiday. Don't know what that's saying, but there's many, many traditions. You go into the woods or the fields and you make wreaths out of the various herbs, as many different oh, the maidens do this, as many different flowers, as different types of herbs as they can. And then they toss them onto the water, and the guy who's sweet on that girl tries to get his
It's Ivana
girl's
Kopala.
wreath. Ivana Kupala. And there's jumping over fires that young people do, both boys and girls. And there's rolling. There, you make a great wheel out of straw. This is all from my Ukrainian studies on LinQ. You roll a hoop of covered with straw and burning down a hill, which shows, I guess, vanquishing whoever was, well, if it's the solstice, you're kind of poised there, aren't you? It's a very long day, but it's like downhill from now on. They do roll it downhill. Anyway, interesting stuff to find in looking up Ukrainian stories about that. But I just remembering discovering this Kult store, Kult, in uh, in Kiev, and how keen they are. There's a lot of stuff to be found, and how interested a lot of young people in Ukraine are now, and trying to look up these traditions. The dolls with just threads across their face and no face. The dolls made of bits of cloth and straw and so on, whose name I now forget, and so on. Great place to visit.
Motenko, right?
Yeah,
Motenko?
yeah,
Yeah. That's
yeah,
a traditional Ukrainian thing, though, right?
yeah, yeah. But it's older than churches. It's
Right, right, yeah,
mothers made them for their girls to protect them, keep them.
right. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. It's not only in Ukraine. This is something. One of the reasons that Christianity managed to become so widespread is they were smart about it. They didn't come into a new area and say all of this old stuff's got to go. They really repurposed some of the Christmas tree. Apparently, was that became a Christian thing in Germany, where up until the point the missionaries got there, they were worshiping trees, and rather than than saying, "Oh, this is the wrong way to go. We're taking this away from you," they just very subtly retold the story to include this as part of Christianity. Um, Great salespeople.
Just put an angel up top there, and you're good.
That's better than the picture I saw. Every year, and this has nothing to do with Ukraine, but whatever. Every year on Instagram, especially, people post all of these posts about the travails if you have a cat and a Christmas tree. And I saw one where the cat had managed to climb absolutely to the top of the tree and was sitting on the top of the tree like he was the angel. I'm not sure how long he stayed up there before the whole tree came crashing down, but it was a very funny picture. But with that, Adam, I think I have one more popular song that I think I'll play, and then I think we're going to say goodnight to friends. If anybody has last minute something they want to come up and share with us, please do that. We have a few minutes left. Anything before I play the song?
Thank you for the whole session. Was really fun, and thanks for all the music.
Well, Ed, thanks for being here, Lexicon. We needed our Ukrainian representatives. Without you and Adam, it would have been rather silly. So thank you. Okay, here, this is entitled.
Very, very much fun, and I enjoyed it as well. And I think, well, now I know more about Ukrainian music, especially. So thank you. Yeah.
Okay, here comes. This is a popular singer, Yagoda, and the song is called Rizdvo, which is Christmas.
Так яскраво світить місяць, зірка хилиться вікно, і в кімнаті біля рідні поселилася любов. Відчиняй серце своє, Різдво до тебе йде. Відчиняй серце своє, Різдво прийде попри все. Не вкрадуть Різдво, не вкрадуть добро, що живе у мені тобі. Не вкрадуть Різдво, поки ми разом, любов з неба торкає землі. І заходить у оселю з колядою дітвора. І чекає донька тата, кожен вірить у дива. Відчиняй серце своє, Різдво до тебе йде. Відчиняй серце своє, Різдво прийде попри все. Не вкрадуть різдво, не вкрадуть добро, що живе у мені тобі. Не вкрадуть різдво, похили разом, любов з неба торкає землі. Не вкрадуть різдво, не вкрадуть добро, що живе у мені тобі. Не вкрадуть різдво, похили разом, любов з неба торкає землі. Щедрий, щедрий, щедрівочка, прилетіла ластівочка, стала собі щебетати, господаря викликати. Щедрий, щедрий, щедрівочка, прилетіла ластівочка, стала собі щебетати, господаря викликати.
They went all Shadrach at the end.
They did.
That was awesome.
They did. Yeah, there is so much incredible contemporary, pop and rock music in Ukraine. It's just amazing. I put on Apple Music and it just plays for hours and hours and hours and hours. I'm always discovering another wonderful song. Yeah, and okay, the bottom line here is this is what has to be protected. This is a treasure for the entire world that has to be preserved and protected. That's really all of the cultural programming we do. I think that really is the point of it is to understand and enjoy Ukrainian culture, to fall in love with it, and to understand on a very elemental level that we have to preserve this. It's much too important to let politics or anything else endanger it. And that's my message for the evening. Back to you, Adam.
Yeah, I just want you all to remember the message of Christmas is to enjoy your family and enjoy what you have, but think about others who don't have that. And the fact that Ukrainians have so many varied Christmas traditions, and it just highlights that archetype of Ukraine being this gateway to Europe and this borderland between East and West, and how much they've contributed to our cultural experience of Christmas, both in a faith sense and a secular sense. And just think about, it's very easy to see Herod in Dovboyov, and it's very easy to see lots of great correlations between this fight and the struggles of early Christians and everyone to have freedom and just to be free to be with your family in the middle of winter when it's really damn cold. I don't know. But I love Christmas, and I love this community, and I love you guys, and thanks so much. And I guess I'll finish by saying Christos narodился.
Slavimo Jeho. And this is rizdvom Khrystovym, and rizdvom, yeah, and Merry Christmas.
Veselых Sviat.
Yes, Veselého Rizdva. Yeah, a lot of different things to say. Anyway, have a wonderful, happy Christmas, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. And we'll say one last thing: Slava Ukraini.
Heroям слава.
Okay. Skoro побачимось.
Слава Ісусу Христу! Скоро побачимо.
Slava навеки.
Slava навеки.
Yes. Yes, Prince. No, that's absolutely in Western Ukraine. That's certainly on Ukrainian Catholic University campus. That's what people say to say hello. Slava Isusu Christu. Slava навеки. Anyway, good night, everyone. And have a very Merry Christmas. Good night.
Welcome to Volya Radio. Slava Ukraini. to Volya Radio. Слава Україні!